Hello, everyone. Welcome to Developing Palates. I'm Aaron Loomis, coming to you from the Ventura Cigar Company studio. With me today is Seth Geis and John McTavish. How you guys doing this evening?
Splendid.
Doing well. I hope that all of our viewers tonight have milk on standby because there's going to be some serious spice.
All right. So we have some special guests with us today. We have William Cooper from Cigar-Coop. How you doing, Will?
I'm just here for the free samples.
All right. Eric Guttormson from Cigar-Dojo. How you doing, Eric?
I'm doing good. Thanks, Aaron.
Charlie Minato from Halfwheel. How you doing, Charlie?
I'm here.
All right. Perfect. Just here. All right. So tonight we are discussing the IPCPR 2019 trade show and convention. And I think what we'll do is we'll just kind of run through the timeline of how the actual show happened. We hit low-hanging fruit right off the bat. That really wasn't my goal, but I think it's the best flow for the show. So I'll set it up a little bit leading up to the trade show. So a few days before the trade show, maybe 5-6 days, something like that, Scott Pierce did a nice little teaser about the big announcement. Shortly after that, Barry Stein from the Cigar Authority took that as a bit of a challenge and went ahead and posted about the name change that I think most of us were privy to going into it. And then not to be outdone, Charlie decided to come out with quite a bit of information and discuss the name change in CigarCon. So, we were off to the races at that point. Conjecture and all the good things that people like to do on Facebook and debating and, bashing things went on. So set a good tone for the trade show. And then what was it, a day or two before the trade show, the media gets an email saying that we should try to coordinate all of our interviews and things like that for outside of show hours, which was just enough time for us to make sure that happened. But it was really kind of a poor communication method, I guess would be the right way to term it. So let's start with you, Charlie. So the information that you put out in the article about the name change to the PCA and the CigarCon concept, I'm sure you had been working on that prior to the actual announcement going forward, and probably just once Barry kind of stuck the door open, it was just time to go ahead and let it go. Was that kind of how it went?
Yeah. So obviously, it's not a new concept. It's something that's been talked about even publicly for the last 5 or 6 years. About not a year ago, maybe 10 months ago, it seemed like it was a lot more serious than it had ever been, but it was happening privately. And so kind of once the new year started, there was a couple more conversations. At that time, it was really framed around the CRA merger, which has not been announced, and I would say is probably more than likely not to happen at this point, at least under the terms that have been negotiated. But there was a discussion about the IPCPR merging with CRA, rebranding to PCA, and then doing the Consumer Day CigarCon as well. And certainly through Q1 and even through a lot of Q2, it was really framed around that discussion about the merger and then the two other things. But we were always made, or I was always made aware that the merger was not dependent on the other two things, and the other two things weren't dependent on the merger. And so let's see. So 31 days before I published it, we had gotten very, very close to publishing almost the same story with just more about the CRA part and about how those talks had stalled, because they'd had a series of meetings over the course of about a 10-day stretch, and the IPCPR and the CRA, or parts of the IPCPR and parts of the CRA. And at some point, it became clear that the merger was not going to happen. The IPCPR was going to move forward with the rebranding and with CigarCon because they were 45-ish days out from the trade show, and they needed to not continue to spend time trying to negotiate this merger with CRA and move forward. So we got close, but ultimately I pulled the plug on it. I wasn't comfortable. Some of the sources that we had about that were describing what was taking place in those meetings and what the events meant for the long term weren't consistent. And so ultimately we shelved the story, but I had spoken to Scott Pierce at that point, and I'd spoken to CRA executive board members. And so I will say I was a bit surprised that they didn't try to reach out again. Like, they knew that I knew, and they knew that I knew quite a bit of the details. And at no point between the conversations I had with Scott Pierce, maybe 35-ish days before I published the article, and up until that very night, had anyone from the IPCPR tried to reach out and been like, hey, could you do us a favor? And we wouldn't have agreed to do it a favor, but it still was kind of an odd thing.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed that communication was a little weak in that regard. For all levels of it. So let's start with the name change first of all. Anybody wanted to hop in and kind of discuss it? I think the name change is really, people for the most part have been fairly positive about it. I think CigarCon's kind of overshadowed it quite a bit. So anybody have any thoughts on the name change that they don't care for or anything like that?
The one thing that I thought was odd is that whole thing they were talking about with the CPR confusion, right? Well, if you go Google PCA, right, you get Presbyterian Church of America, you get Porsche Club of America. I'm not sure how that's alleviating. I'm not sure if that's a valid enough reason that there was confusion with the CPR thing, right? I think it's a nice reason to kind of justify the name change. But I like more. I do think it's a cleaner name. Maybe I would have not gone with such a common acronym, but I do like that it's a cleaner name.
So do the Presbyterians.
I think Eric hit the nail on the head because a lot of people were complaining about the logo of all things because people have to find things to complain about. And one of the things we commented on was, wait until we see the color. And I actually think they've done and this is going to sound really weird at this point, but shockingly coherent strategy around the branding idea, the coloring, and sort of what went into that. And I think the comment, which kind of seemed like a bit of a throwaway at the time, but was one of the better things said at the show, which was, if you're a handgun owner and you're a member of the National Riflemen's Association, does that mean you're not a member of the NRA? No, it still means you're a member. Just because you're a pipe smoker, it doesn't mean you're not a member of the PCA. It's a better branding strategy, I think. I mean, the number of times you've had to explain IPCPR over the last 10, 12 years is more times than it took for people to understand how to spell and say Elway Wednesday. So there it is.
Yeah, I mean, the branding isn't bad. I mean, if there's a lot of things to complain about, but, the branding I don't think is one of them. It's a decent logo. It's not the greatest logo I've ever seen. It's not the worst logo I've ever seen. It's a lot easier to remember. It's a lot easier to understand. So, I mean, as far as branding goes, it's not a terrible.
And do you think this plays into them when they're fighting legislation to trying to differentiate premium cigars from other tobacco products, that the naming was important to that fact?
They're never going to be able to differentiate themselves from, tobacco for cigarettes. That's a stupid fucking argument. That's why they didn't do premium tobacco, because the government's not going to care about premium tobacco, because then you're going to be getting an argument with Southern farmers about tobacco, and they're saying, well, I grow premium tobacco.
I think it's more of a name retention type of thing. I'm surprised they didn't try to explain this better, but the way I was explained to it about why they went to PCA was, we have these meetings with congressmen, and as soon as we leave the room, they're trying to describe like who they met with, not the IPCPR, but the members of Congress, the staffers. And it would be a lot easier to be like, oh yeah, that was the premium cigar people versus the premium cigar pipe retailers, something or other. I don't know. I'm happy with the name. I mean, I could care less about the name change. I know the pipe people for a week and a half were very up in arms, and my comment to anyone that's still concerned about not having pipes in the name is that, I imagine Durastate probably accounts for more revenue for the IPCPR than the pipe people combined do at this point. So I don't think we should call it the Premium Cigar and Durastate Association. And, if pipes ever get back to the heyday and they're contributing a meaningful amount, 15, 20% of revenue, then throw them back in the name. But until then, money talks.
Yep, exactly. All right. Any other thoughts on the name change, or we should get over to the big event?
You want to mention the logo real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
The font's terrible.
I agree the font's terrible, but I can say it is a very easy message to deliver, and for people to understand and walk out of that room with the color scheme. Because it kind of, those colors, I'm not saying they're the greatest colors in the world, but I understand what they were trying to do, and it's very clear to articulate what we're about with those colors.
Yeah.
We're not going to argue about fonts, are we? Really?
No, I mean,
Good. I could do half an hour on fonts.
Hey, man, it wasn't Comic Sans, so we're all good.
That
might
is
have been
where
an
the bar
improvement.
has been set.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. So the name change was kind of like the lead up, but that kind of got swept under the rug because of the big announcement of CigarCon. So the announcement is basically that in 2020 there will be a consumer day, which for 2020 will be the first day of the show because it falls on a Saturday. That may change down the road. They've announced that the goal is to have 4,500 consumers attend that day. They will be tickets that are purchased through the retailers. I think what we know now is that it's not going to be kind of a trick-or-treating scenario. It's going to be, they get a certain number of cigars. When they get them, I'm not sure if they get them ahead of time before they travel or they're going to get them once they arrive or how that is, but it doesn't seem like a large number of cigars. So I think that the gist is that the retailers are going to be chaperoning the consumers around, getting to visit booths. I think we still don't know the layout of how that looks. There's still a lot of details, I think, that have not been ironed out. And they did a media conference with us right after that. We were able to ask a lot of questions. There were some answers. There were a lot of things that probably were still up in the air. So some initial thoughts on the announcement that happened in the big room that everybody was invited to, and then how that kind of shuffled into the media conference after the fact. Anybody want to jump in on that?
I'm gonna fire some shots first, Coop, because it's gonna be short. First of all, if you had a lot to say and you've taken to Facebook like a coward to whine and complain about it, your opportunity was at the show when it was a Q&A session at the announcement. I think what it is that people are afraid of publicly looking either stupid or saying their piece and being singled out. I think if you had something to say, that was your venue. Going to Facebook after the fact and complaining about it and having all these sniping comments, you had your chance, and that was the chance, and everyone said nothing. There wasn't a whisper in the house.
But I think that this is, and not to get too far off track, I think this is part of the issue that was raised, albeit in a very minor way, many years ago about making media members of the organization. That was a press conference that media was invited to because they were media, not because they were members. And so I think it would have been to the collective detriment if the entire thing was just people accosting Scott Pierce and Scott Virginia and Rocky. I found some of Lincoln Salazar's questioning to be helpful, but also Lincoln Salazar runs a competing event and was clearly there to make an argument. And
yeah, I felt like it was more like, why don't you hire us to run this event?
Yeah, or just complaining about it,
right?
And I think there's a lot of
the media Q&A.
Oh, sorry, yeah, the retailer.
No, that's good.
The retailer Q&A is fine. I wasn't there for it, but I'm glad in some sense that the media Q&A was not people taking the go screw yourself. I'm glad that there was productive questions asked because there were some productive answers, and then there was Lincoln Salazar.
Yeah, I thought. Sorry, I know you got a lot to say, Coop, but
no, go ahead. I'm fine.
I had plenty of questions prepared for the session, but when Charlie was asking really good questions and the answers that were in response were, quite frankly, disrespectful, in my opinion, and it became very clear. These were not difficult questions. These were sort of very, in my opinion, softball questions. And there were no answers to the softball questions. So what I took away from that is, for good or for bad, we don't have a plan. If we do have a plan, we're not going to communicate it to you. We don't have a strategy. If we do have a strategy, we're not going to communicate it to you. And we don't have this organized yet. Or if we do, we're not going to communicate it to you. So from that perspective, there were some key takeaways, which we took away. But that could have been handled in a 5-minute presser to the media and say, well, we're not going to answer any questions because we don't have any answers for you, which ultimately I don't know that we got a lot of answers. I think we got 2 or 3 pieces. We got when it was going to happen, what day it was going to happen on, the number of people that were going to be in attendance, and $1 billion budget. So there's that.
It's awesome, man. $1 billion budget. That was incredibly professional.
I think the best part of the presser was seeing Aaron trying to get his question in. He was like, come on, give me. Go, I got, and they would just never go to Aaron. I was like, Aaron,
Charlie and Lincoln were playing keep away from me.
You just gotta
the front of the room.
It out, Aaron.
I was right. I was the second row. I mean,
in
the front of the room.
Just throw a cup.
I wasn't gonna kick Patrick in the back so I could take his chair or anything.
You could have done that too. I mean,
I actually only had one question, and they answered it when Bear asked his. So I just sat back and watched. But Bear had a couple good questions as well. But I thought the press conference was pretty good. I thought they smoothed over some rough edges. The guys up on stage there.
I mean, I think it was nice that there was actually like some transparency. Like they sat there and they just took questions. I think that's, for the media at least, it's, I think, very rare that we've had that opportunity, right?
I think they took a lot of body blows. I don't know if they necessarily took questions, but I do have to say it takes a lot of guts to sit up there and take 45 minutes of body blows and not react more than they did. One of the things I want to say is that I think it's good that Rocky is so behind it, because I think Rocky carries a lot of respect and a lot of energy in the industry, and I'm hoping that he uses some of that to get some of the people who are, just taking the ball and going home because they just don't like change, that some of those people can be swayed on board, and hopefully they can by somebody like that.
So let me give a few thoughts on this. I think the media conference was great, right? But let me kind of go back to the opening thing by Scott Pierce. What an atrocious job by the IPCPR to not Facebook stream live that thing, right? To your members who maybe couldn't be there for whatever reason, The technology was there to certainly do that, right? And I ended up just throwing a quick Facebook Live up there because no one was seeing what was going on. And I'm seeing, for example, Jeff Borshowitz, who was traveling to get there. He's thanking me for putting that up there. So why wasn't that put up for everyone? First of all, this is, this shouldn't be about who's at the trade show, who's not at the trade show to see this. Everyone, if this is a critical announcement, they're paying their IPCPR dues, and maybe they're not at the show.
Because there's no Wi-Fi, Coop.
You know what? You can record it and then do a Facebook from here. All right.
I'm just joking.
They didn't put it up on social media until today.
Yeah, they did. Now, secondly,
they didn't put the announcement. Like, if you went on their Instagram or Twitter page, like, you didn't know that the name was changed until today.
Until today, a week later.
Yeah, it's going to take them a couple years to find video, Coop. Calm down.
All right, second thing, okay? Very, very unusual that quietly Cigar Aficionado moves off the lunchtime learning schedule on Sunday, right? And they slip in this Q&A thing for the retailers, which I could tell you most of the retailers, and they didn't notice, okay? Most of the retailers still thought they were going to a Cigar Aficionado Q&A, and they went there. Again, I think it was good that they had a Q&A separate from the media and separate from the announcement. No announcement that wasn't promoted almost. Again, I think that was a poor job, and that Q&A should have also been recorded because I had appointments. I couldn't take the time to get off the show floor and go there. So big miss by the IPCPR in terms of that piece, but I do think the media press conference was something good.
Well, I think also this is where I'll defend IPCPR and just any association. If you're really interested and you're actually a committed member, then fucking go. And if you're not going to go, no, seriously, Coop, if you're going to be a member of an association, then you need to be there.
Seth, there could be a family issue or something why someone can't be there. I mean, that's the point. We don't know, all right?
Well, then you can get a recap on that. I'm going to give them a break on that.
Right, but record the thing or something is what I'm saying so they can hear the messaging. Because I think Scott's messaging in that opening session was good. And I think people needed to hear some of the stuff that he said there.
You mean the pre-Q&A session?
I thought
the messaging was
and if people would have, I guarantee half these people on Facebook who are complaining didn't hear some of the messaging in there. So right then and there, like I said, I think I understand what you're saying, Seth. I agree you should make every effort to be there, but sometimes there's mitigating circumstances too.
Oh, no, and listen, and I get that. It's just one of these things that, you're hearing about a lot of these people who weren't there or just complaining and they're not participating. I manage associations. If you're going to complain about an association and you're going to complain about how it's run, then get involved and be there.
Totally agree.
Something to you. If you really think the board is not doing a good job, because you can't blame, first of all, you can't blame the staff of IPCPR. They work under the direction of the board. Yeah. So if you don't like the direction, your problems with the board of directors, get on the board of directors. That's how you do things.
But how do you get on the board of directors?
Well, they're a part of the association. I'm sure they have some governing documents. I can look it over in 5 minutes. Yeah, there's
the bylaws.
Give me the bylaws, and I could do it. I mean, the annual meeting, I believe,
you should try to get the bylaws.
Good luck. Yeah.
No, I'll go get the bylaws. It's public domain. I could probably find it.
To get on the board, to get on the board, you have to be nominated by the to get on the executive board, you have to be nominated by the executive board.
There's got to be something in there. I guarantee with how they're written that you could be nominated from the floor. You can't just deny a membership like that.
Oh no, I'm sure, but I mean, they just put the nominations of the executive board up on the floor at the general breakfast, and no one pays attention to it because you're in the middle of eating toast.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's props to them for, getting around it.
We have so much to go through on this Cigar-Con. So much to go through.
Yeah, so we get to the announcement. Now let's get into the actual concept of the event. So the fact that they're actually doing a consumer event, we have little details about how they're actually going to run it. Thoughts on what they've announced so far versus how you think it would work, how well you think it would work, how poorly you think it worked, just kind of general thoughts.
All right, guys. So my thought is this: the IPCPR, it's 87 years old, right? 87. It's the 87th annual. When you're 87 years old, like you start crapping your pants. I mean, that's just sort of what you do when you're that old. And like some of this was just a disaster. I as a media guy, I love it. It's great. I'll cover whatever. I'll be there. We'll be there. The dojo will be there, hanging out, having fun, whatever it takes. But as far as how this is going to function, I mean, I think the first year could just be an entire cluster. I hope not, but it could be.
Let me ask you this, Eric.
Yeah.
If they couldn't sell enough tickets, and they came in and they reached out to you and said, "Hey, we're like 80 tickets shy. You want to run a crew through here? Is that something you do? I mean, you got the community for that. Is that something you do?"
Yeah, if there was some sort of, that brings up another great point is, typically when we go to events, usually, either they fly us in or they pay for our hotel or maybe they pay for the event or all of those things maybe, so that because we cover the event, right, and we bring a promotion to the event in some way. If they had some sort of package like that for me, yeah, I probably would do something like that. It would be fun because we have a big community of guys that would get behind that, So like I'm sort of on two sides of the fence here. Like A, we cover things, but also B, we typically do these community style events. So the community aspect of it for us would be really good because we have this big community that wants to go to Honduras and Nicaragua and all those sort of things. So that might be fun for those guys. And then there's sort of this, media aspect of it for us that's, we cover it. And so either one of those things work for us. But I mean, if they asked me to pay another $150 to cover, Cigar-Con, then no, there's no way in the world that's going to happen. I just would not be there.
Yeah.
I'd like to start breaking down some of the things that I've been hearing over the last 10 days or whatever amount of time it's been since the show. Because there's been a lot of things said, and I feel like I'm in a unique position because I'm a former retailer. So I'm going to speak from the place of a retailer. And that is, first of all, if you don't think you can take 10 of your top customers as a retailer down to the IPCPR for 6 hours and put them in front of people like Pete Johnson, Steve Saka, Jonathan Drew, Willie Herrera, Carlito Fuente, and you don't think those people are going to be excited to meet those people, and you don't think that by the end of each of those conversations, those guys aren't going to come around saying, yeah, no, put me down for, 4 boxes of the new ME2. If you can't do that as a retailer, maybe you're not a good retailer, because these are people who are willing to go into your shop when there's an event, meet these people and get excited. I mean, there's boutique brands out there that can close out an entire line, an entire run of cigars in a single night, and that's 3 or 4 hours. Not even 4 hours, probably 3 hours. There are online shops, there are online partners that can sell out cigar lines, 300-400 boxes in a matter of 20 minutes. Eric, you guys have done it. Other online sites have done it. So why is there this mental block that you don't think that taking, your hardcore cigar guys down to the show to meet these people in person, maybe they've, spent 5 minutes with them one time at a show, and to have them a dedicated time at the show where the product is, getting introduced to the product, the new stuff, and everyone's like, oh, but John, they're gonna come home with cigars and they're not gonna buy any cigars. And what I think is hilarious about that is Robbie Rasmussen just posted a picture yesterday with a brand new box of Tatuajes and 3 other cigars to go with it. And here's a guy who literally just had to buy a brand new stand-up humidor because he has more cigars than he knows what to do with, and he's out buying cigars. If he's buying cigars, why do you think a guy going to the show who's going to get whatever many cigars also isn't going to buy cigars? It's such a ridiculous argument.
I think this is the most ridiculous thing that I've ever heard of having the retailers do this. I don't understand it. I don't understand what it's doing, right? First of all, I've gone to conventions and trade shows where I've had to chaperone customers. It is not fun, okay? And then on top of that, you're going to have to – I've done it, believe me, and it's tortured me in my job, right? I don't see a lot of retailers, first of all, wanting to do this. It has nothing to do with their customers or anything like that. It simply has to do with this is a busy enough week for them, and it's a time to do business. The last thing they need to be is an event planner here, right? So that's the first thing. Second thing is, how the heck are you going to sell 4,500 tickets without having some sort of a margin for your retailers to make money on those tickets? That is just basic sales 101. You're shooting for a number that's very high. They said they're going to have incentives. The incentives are making money off the tickets. And that's really the only thing that I can say about that, as far as that goes. They're talking about using the retailers as a chaperone model to prevent the booze from backing up. That came up in the press conference. Again, I don't see that's a skill, moving people in and out of booze. That's not just something you say to your average retailer, all right, you got to move these people in and out. It requires training. It requires a lot of expertise to do this. So I don't
actually think it's logistically possible. So we covered 150 companies, which isn't booths, but 150 companies at the trade here. If you just divide the math, and obviously there's 15 guys in the bathroom puking and there's people walking around the hallways, that's 30 people per company. There's only 240 or 230 booths at this point. And that includes the POS people and all the random shit that aren't going to be there for this Saturday activity anyway. Yeah, certainly there's going to be 120, 150 people in the Drew Estate booth, but I mean, the HVC booth, you can't put 30 people there. And you start running down the list of the 150 companies that we cover, and there's only probably a third of them that can really handle 30 people at any given time. So this idea, this is a small part of it, but and I agree with much of what Coop had to say, but there's also some just basic parts of this where it's who has thought about what this looks like in practice? Because what it looks like in practice to me is an absolute fire marshal disaster.
That's the best way to put it.
Well, assuming that 4,500 people show up, which isn't going to happen. So,
well, guys, I got to say though, Great American Beer Fest is locally here in Colorado, and at Great American Beer Fest, it's a all consumer event. It's 4 days long. There's more people at every single day there than there will be at the one day at the IPCPR PCA Consumer Day, and they handle it. There's lines sometimes, but it works.
The trained staff. I bet you there's trained event staff working that.
It's just guys from the brewery. It's literally.
No, but Eric, it's logistically it's set up.
It's set up logistically, yeah.
And they're typically in just a very small. They don't have these big monster booths. They have tiny booths. So it can happen. It can work. I don't know. I mean, it could be a cluster, but they'll adjust. Can we
be realistic for a second about? I mean, I don't want to be negative because I don't think it needs to be entirely negative. There's a lot of other things to be negative about. Can we be realistic about what we think the over/under on the true number of attendees? I mean, they're not going to be counted, so the numbers are just going to be made up anyways. But what do you guys think the over/under on the made up numbers is going to be? And I'm going to say it's going to be less than I said earlier, Coop, 1,500. I'm going to say it's going to be less than 1,000.
I don't think we can say made up numbers until if they say they sold this many tickets, then you have to kind of take. But
you're not scanning badges.
Well,
right.
But if they sell, let's say they sell the tickets though. I mean, let's take them at their word for that. Whether they all attend or not, you would hope. I think this is a little bit different than that.
Sold tickets. So how many tickets do you believe? Oh, what's the over?
500 to 1,000.
0.
You think they scuttled this whole thing?
Yeah. Well, that's an easy over/under.
I agree. I'm with Charlie. This is. I mean, let me go on about this too. So the idea of they're going to have this app where they're going to have consumers take pictures and email it to your retailer. again, I think they're trying to create something that doesn't really exist. How many times have you guys been at the trade show and you get retailers who go up to you and they ask, hey, what's new? And you tell them what's new. And they give you a plethora of reasons why they can't bring that cigar in. I
help them shop all the time. No,
well, I mean, to me, I mean, I know what they're trying to do. They don't want to have consumers running loose on this floor here, but to me, I don't understand what they're trying to do.
I think they're trying to build the value in for the retailers to explain to them why, in a world in which you aren't getting any financial kickbacks on selling tickets, you get some sort of quantifiable monetary value, which is you get all this data, you get a focus group from customers that paid $500 plus per ticket, which is crazy. But like,
yeah,
this is it. I mean, so let's just run down like some problems here. So first of all, I think the technology does exist to like scan cigars, and like we've seen some of that, but like they're talking about this being a massive investment, which is concerning. Secondly, is that like as someone that has to photograph, I think more booths or at least Half-Wheel does than anyone else, like there's no way that you're going to develop technology that's going to be able to let you scan anything that's in a case in the Gurkha booth. Like the lighting is atrocious, and that's one of a number of booths. And third, like what do you do when like JC Newman this year shows up with a cigar that on Tuesday they didn't think was going to be there, and on Thursday it happened to make it into the UPS truck and it showed up and they displayed it. So like I don't understand like if this is really the best idea you've got, can't we just QR code it? Can't you just print some QR codes and stick them on the side of displays? Like,
right.
But I think this idea that like a consumer is going to pay, let's just call it $500, probably going to be more. They're going to walk around the trade show with their phone open. They're going to use some random ass app they've never used in their life. It's probably not going to work for the first little bit. And they're going to keep like doing it out of the goodness of their heart. It's insane. And it's all of this is a roundabout way to be like, hey, retailers, please sell some tickets.
And that, do you think they're using this as a way to get the consumers to pester the retailers that are not going to the trade show anymore? Saying
no, I think it's simply a way for them to get the retailers for them to be like, hey, look, we're going to take your 20 best customers. They're going to walk around the trade show floor with you. You're going to get all this data, so that way, come Sunday, you know what to buy. I think that's the pitch.
Which is totally unrealistic. I don't see that happening.
Yeah. Not being a retailer, I can't really say, but do you really not have a plan going into the show of what you're looking to buy? Like you're going to be that easily influenced that, oh, hey, I got 10 pictures of this, cigar from, whoever. I need to go buy a bunch of that because these guys said they're going to buy it all. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what their strategy is going.
Mike, the concerning part to me is, and I think the most telling thing that we got out of that media Q&A was when somebody asked, and I think it was Lincoln or some sort of follow-up question of profitability, and Scott said, it's not going to be profitable for year one. It's not going to be profitable for year two. It might be profitable at year three because there's a lot of big infrastructure costs.
Sure.
And we didn't ask him to line item the infrastructure costs, but there was like this technology piece that was big, and I'm guessing that this is what this was about, unless there's something completely different. And what was concerning was that like that's under a world in which they sell 4,500 tickets out, and I'm guessing given the complete stonewalling we got in terms of like, are you going to give retailers kickbacks? I'm guessing that's 4,500 tickets at full price with no discounting. And so if they're going to run this event and they're going to sell 13,000 tickets or whatever the number is in the first 3 years, and it's still not going to be guaranteed to be profitable at year three, like how much money is this thing that no one's going to use going to cost?
Right.
Because I got some things that I mean there's a Manolo Casada cutout over there that we could sell them for a couple $1,000s. That way Manolo doesn't have to show up to this goddamn pity party.
I mean, is there anyone here that
was that good enough for you, John?
Sorry?
Was that good enough for you, John?
That was good. I like that.
Spicy enough for you, John?
Spicy Charlie is my favorite Charlie because he says what's on his mind and he says it loud and proud. Is there anyone here that honestly believes that there's any number of kickbacks, call it 100% kickback to a retailer, that is going to get retailers who are staunchly opposed to this idea on board?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think if you give a retailer 20% of kickback of the ticket sales, they'd be on board?
It's all about money.
20%, but certainly if you're getting 50% of it back, yeah.
Money changes everything, John. I totally think that too. I've said a lot of these problems go away if there's money in it.
I mean, I feel like that's so short-sighted. I mean, if you took your top customers to the IPCPR and got them to see new product and got them signed up to buy new product before it even showed up at your store. I mean, there's such a huge opportunity. And I can tell you, I believe that the larger stores, the top 2% of stores right now, they're right now figuring out who they're going to bring to the show because they're not concerned about.
John, they could put half-wheel up tomorrow and run it on the store screen and do that.
Yeah,
and get people excited. Seriously, I mean,
Seriously.
people gonna go five. Yeah, but I mean, you have people go 4,000, 3,000 miles out to Vegas to do that. I mean, to get people excited, they should be getting them excited weeks beforehand when there's all these news sources out there reporting these press releases, and they don't do that. So no, instead we'll fly people out there, and I'll have to work a day as a chaperone to do it. That's crazy.
Can I just say, and I really wish that one of you guys that hosts one of these live shows, I think the person to talk to that would be so interesting about this, and I wish that I would have gotten to spend a little bit more time with him in Vegas, is Ron Lesserow, the former owner of Sirius. Because Ron actually took customers to Big Smoke. He would take, I think, like a dozen or so every year to Vegas Big Smoke. And he could probably answer a lot of some of these questions about, like, is there actual value from his perspective as a massive retailer, and also as someone that ran their own consumer event and like took customers to Vegas. There's a lot of different things there that like he has direct knowledge, although it's concerning to me because I think Ron's pretty much the only one that was doing that.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody has that kind of concept already nailed down, then I think that's probably what a lot of retailers are going to try to. Well, some retailers are going to try to figure that out, how to make it an actual destination event. And I think there'll be probably a few that will be really good at it, and then there'll be some that are really bad at it, and then we'll see kind of how that shakes out when it happens, if it happens. But I mean, don't we think that this is an opportunity for a really good event? I mean, you have everybody already there, so like this could be far better than any Big Smoke or any Rocky Mountain Cigar Fest or any Cigar Fest. I mean, you have way more brands there, but if the logistics don't work, then it can be a disaster.
I just don't think. I think what they're trying to tackle is too much, right? So again, I think if you had people, if you break it up into breakout groups, right, and have staff who are knowledgeable about the show kind of going around and doing this instead of putting it on the retailers, I'd have less of a problem with this, in my opinion. I think it's a good strategy. I think putting this on the retailer is nothing short of a disaster waiting to happen, because you're asking them to do something that is not you're diminishing. There's a skill to do that. Again, I've gone to enough I've taken customers enough alone, and I'm not trained to do that either, and it's tough enough. And I can imagine now trying to do this with the cigar industry, when afterward you have to be focused on business. I just don't see it. I think the concept. I like the concept of bringing retailer and consumer partnering on this. I just think the execution of this, I don't understand it.
Who actually wants to go to this? Out of curiosity, like how many consumers do we think are actually interested in this?
Oh, there'd be consumers, I think, from several locations.
I think that if you don't think that consumers would be excited about going to the IPCPR and a chance to meet some of the people in the industry, I think you're vastly underestimating the demand.
So look at these like super fans out there, right? They go. There's a way you can go to the show. You know what?
Yeah, there's super fans that'll go and work for.
You can become an indentured servant, and you work the booths, and you get to go. We've seen this like for the past 10 years.
No, but there'd be consumers who are not, like, as you say, fanboys. I mean, they're not all Espinosa fanboys like you, Coop. But
I know.
No, there'd be plenty of consumers in locations. Listen, Havana Phil's, I could probably point out 5 people at Havana Phil's who have the money and who would definitely do this.
But the problem is that if there's only 5 from Havana Phil's, that's 15 to 20 under what they need to get to the 4,500 number.
Listen, there's no way they're hitting a 4,500 number, and if they hit the 4,500 number, it would be absolute pandemonium in the convention center.
But like, this is the problem. Like, I understand there's 14 people that want to do this, but like that haven't already found a way into the trade show. But I guess the part that I struggle with a lot is, like, I look at what's happening with Big Smoke in terms of the fact that they are advertising. I mean, they're going to give away probably $1 million of the free advertising for Big Smoke this year for an established event that used to sell out, that's no longer selling out. That I think it's hard to sit here and go, the IPCPR is going to do a much better job running a consumer event in their first year than Cigar Aficionado is going to do running Big Smoke in its however many 10th, 15th year. And it leads me to believe, and I certainly amongst the shops that I visit here in Dallas and seeing the events in Houston that used to sell out like crazy. I just don't know how much demand there is to go sit in a room, particularly for 6 hours, not get a whole bunch of cigars, and spend an exorbitant amount of money to go attempt to take a picture with Carlito. Like, I just don't know how much the demand's there.
I agree.
I disagree.
Let me ask a question to particularly the ones who are the brand owners of websites here, because I'm questioning how they're going to promote this, right? If you get a press release from the PCA announcing this event and how the ticket sales go, are you going to print that press release, or are you going to basically say, because I treat that like I don't print press releases for an event unless you're a sponsor. That's paid in my book. That's advertising. Are you guys going to print that press release, or are you going to specifically say, hey, you got to buy a sponsorship for that? Because I'm going to say they have to buy a sponsorship for it. They got to pay for it.
I think I might print it just for the
That boy.
do a little bit to promote the industry.
You don't think we promote the industry enough for this
No, I
IPCPR?
understand that, but
Yeah.
You're just
Hey.
there for the free samples.
I'm
just there for the free samples,
I just want a little star next to my name, so I don't have to argue about lunch tickets. And if they can just give me an extra lunch ticket or something like that, I'll be a happy camper. I mean, hey, it's worth a $15.
Yeah.
Right?
It's it's a concept of trying to bring people together, man. I mean, that's what it is.
But you know, how many times have a retailer asked you, like, and it's ridiculous, they ask, hey, can you promote my event? A local retailer asks this, right? Again, you can't, there's a point where you have to just say you can't expand bandwidth on this, and you have to kind of, if you want some value for it, you got,
That's an event with 100 people that show up to it. I mean, like, we would print it. I don't see why not. Like
you print, okay, here's where you go buy the tickets and everything.
Yeah, well, we'll write about when Pro Cigar opens or when the Festival del Habano opens. I mean, this is a similar sized event that, as Seth points out, which I agree with, is about bringing people together and is about trying to promote the industry to a much wider audience and in a much more spectacular fashion. So, yeah, I don't think that we would have a ton of issue with doing so. Like, I also, I don't think that solves much of the IPCPR/PCA's problem, but
no, it's not gonna solve it or do anything. But it's
Well, I mean, you can't solve the problem unless you can get both the manufacturers and retailers on board that you need to come to the show to do business. And obviously, that model is broken, both from a manufacturer perspective and
this is I mean, outside of just the bonkers scenarios of like, okay, if we have 4,500 or when we have 4,500 people, we won't make money year one. Like, outside of the crazy scenarios you got to put yourself in to bend over to make sense of this, like, you have a trade show that is not working and is on the decline, and there's very obvious signs of it, like, everywhere you look. Why not get that house in order before you try to undertake this absolutely ambitious project
Exactly.
that no one's asking for?
Exactly. I totally agree with that.
Coop, they're trying to change everything.
Coop, you spend a lot of effort covering the IPCPR now. You don't require them to advertise now? Why would you make that requirement just to post a press release about it in the future?
I cover the brands that are there.
Yeah, that's covering the show. That's promoting the show. That's part of promoting the show.
Well, I think, in general, I think there's more value. We shouldn't diminish in general, we shouldn't diminish the value of advertising. And frankly, it keeps the lights on for brands like us to keep going. So, I mean, I understand maybe, here's the thing. How are they going to promote this any other way? Like, they're not going to get it in aficionado because they're competing with the big smoke. So what are they going to do? They're going to go the online media route, send the press release where they say, okay, we're going to save the advertising money. But if aficionado would take that ad, I guarantee they would take it.
Yeah, you're cigar media. This is cigar news. I don't see why.
But like a Coop, if you're not willing to promote it, then how are these retailers going to promote it? Like,
well, I'm just saying, how are they going to promote it without any incentive? I can make it out. You guys can make a fair argument. Okay, maybe let's say I do put it out there, right?
Oh no, look, I think I don't have any issue with it. Like, I think a very fair argument would be like, if you want us to promote this, then treat us like actual media.
That's where I'm going. That's where I'm going. Give us the things like early show floor access, where we don't have to buy floor space to get on there. We've been asking for this for 10 years.
No. I'm saying like don't make us members. Like,
don't make us members, right?
If you want us to be a media outlet, then let us be a media outlet. But
Yeah, I agree.
But they're not going to do that because they need the $4,500.
Yeah.
It's probably more than that.
Yeah.
Just get Skip to hang 2 banners and we're covered.
That money goes to Shepard. But I think that I think that there are 2 casualties that have taken place in CigarCon. One is the PCA part of it, where like a lot of those things that were being discussed, I'm not sure how realistic some of them are, but like the idea of having a foundation and the idea of doing like a roadshow, of getting out and really promoting, or not promoting, but trying to educate your members. Like those are all great things the IPCPR should have been doing for many years. And I'm glad to see that we're having that. We're going to absolutely discuss none of it because of CigarCon. And it was discussed for a grand total of 30 seconds in Vegas because of CigarCon. And the second part is like CigarCon is a gigantic distraction from this conversation about retailer attendance, the conversation about what the future of the show looks like, and some of the other like massive problems that exist with the IPCPR nearly sole generation of revenue. And like I just don't understand how the executive board comes to the conclusion that like we should do CigarCon before attempting to set the trade show, at least in the vicinity of the correct direction.
What's up, Seth?
Well, I'm just laughing because it's it's an obvious comment. It's like, hey, this is broken, so instead of fixing it, let's just go do something else that we'll fuck up.
I mean, it's broken. This is, I mean, all trade shows are suffering right now. I mean, it's not, but this was nothing. This was an embarrassment to this. I said it. This was nothing short of an embarrassment to the cigar industry. The attendance we had this past weekend.
Well, I mean, how many retailers are saying, listen, well, I don't need to go to the show to get the deals, to get any of that stuff. And I mean, it's been on threads and everyone's been talking about it. There's if you don't need to go, and then you could say, listen, why waste my time in attending? And that's something that, manufacturers, like if they commit to it, they should be like, if you're committing to it, commit to it and make the deals at the show. Really tell the retailers to actually go to the show.
But that's such an unrealistic like ask. And it was always crazy to me. Like, you enter this business like in the time of Barack Obama when like socialism is just rampant in America. And so it was always hilarious to me to watch the people that were very concerned about socialism and the protection of capitalism then be like, okay, but we need a massive gentleman's agreement between everyone involved that we're just not going to do this type of business except when we're in this little space for 4 days. Like that's not realistic.
Charlie, you're in an industry that talks about capitalism and all this, and then when nothing goes fair for them, they bitch about how it's unfair and they should be treated equally. I mean,
government
fair point. Absolutely.
But like I just don't think that like getting like and I know in private conversations I've had with the IPCPR over the years, like that's just a non-starter. Like the idea of it'd just be so much better if everyone just agreed not to the deals a month before. And it's like, sure. Also, time machines would be awesome for other purposes, but you can't afford one. So we should probably move on to practical things. And I think that the IPCPR has failed miserably in trying to explain the other benefits of the trade show. I think the education part of the trade show has been terrible collectively.
Yep.
In the time that I've been around it. And I think that like if you compare, if there's one area to compare with TPE about like where TPE kills the IPCPR, it's in the education seminars. They are so much better attended. They're so much more useful. You get like pointed questions. And the IPCPR one, which I think is somewhat due to like the sort of connotations around them, like no one shows up to them. And then when they do show up, they just show up to complain about how no one showed up or about how terrible the speakers were, which is a legitimate concern. And I also think that, and I don't want to take up all the time here, but like the IPCPR also does very little in terms of trying to do retention efforts at this point. If I was the IPCPR, I would take all the people that didn't show up or all the people that were at last year's show, and 30 days out, I would get a list of all the people that haven't registered for this year's show. I would call them, and then I would turn that data over to the 20 or 30 largest companies in the industry. And I'd go, look, here are all the retailers that we're concerned about that haven't signed up yet. Please like have your reps go into these stores and start to ask them, because the manufacturers are the ones that suffer the most when people don't show up.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know whether any other week in the year was available to them. And, I can't speak to that because the IPCPR, it is a challenging job to lock down the convention center for a particular block of time. But we were pretty aware last year all the way in last year knowing that the time block that was selected for this year was not a good time block. And I don't think it's unreasonable to say that day 3 of this show was like day 4 of last show in terms of attendance. There was nobody on the floor. It was a ghost town. We could have played baseball down the hallways. It would have been no problem. So I think that was a major factor. I think there was a lot of things that went wrong with this show. I think the announcement organization went poorly. I think the timing was poor. I mean, the irony is that one of the things that really went right is the weather was great, which was shocking. The AC was on for the first time ever, I think.
AC was blasting, man.
The AC
I had the
was blasting.
shivers.
So nobody was passing out during setting up the booth times, so that was great. That was good. The food was not bad. We didn't have to beg for tickets like we're street people. So that was refreshing. You pay your $350, you actually get treated like another associate member. That's good. So those are all positive, I think, right, guys?
I mean, and the IPCPR was able to bring everybody together and bitch about CigarCon. So it's
half the people were at the Luca bar when the announcement was going on.
That's true.
I don't think there's any doubt, guys, that probably in February they could see the pre-sale tickets was a nightmare. I mean, I'm involved with companies that do pre-sale tickets, and you can tell way in advance that things are going bad, and this is probably a slight bit of desperation move. So they got to do something. I mean, I don't know if this is the right thing or not to do, but clearly they knew that day 3 and day 4 at the show was rough, man. I mean, come on. I've never seen it like that in the short 7-8 years I've been doing it. So,
but I think day 3 is going to continue to be terrible until they change the times. I think they underestimated when they surveyed in one of the rare moments of surveying retailers, and they asked them what days do you want the show to be on? And they said, let's have it start on Saturday. I think they didn't see a scenario coming where everyone would just show up for Saturday and Sunday and then go home Monday morning.
Right.
So I think they realistically, if they want to ever fix this problem, they're probably going to have to make it start on Friday. And that, from what I understand, is going to cost quite a bit of money to have changed.
Yeah.
It's a real the biggest controversy of all. Forget CigarCon, forget all this sort of stuff. The biggest controversy of all. These paper badges. I mean, come on. They literally
you still have it? How'd you still have that thing?
It instantly broke apart the moment I put it around my neck. I mean, come on. What happened to the plastic badges?
I mean, if there was a symbol of just how poorly the show went this year, I think it was the fact that
Hey man, your lunch tickets were on there though.
Yeah.
Those media lunch tickets were on there.
Yeah, if they just take the lunch tickets off, it'll reduce the weight and it probably won't break as quickly.
No, I destroyed mine when I actually took off the lunch tickets.
Seriously though, I mean, you're trying to announce this new initiative, and it's one of those. It's the penny wise pound foolish thing. You don't have covers for your badges. It makes you look like if you don't know by now that you need covers for your badges. Maybe you need to take a step back. I mean, I know they know, but that's one of those things where how much money did you save? A couple $100, $1,000? Probably the wrong call. The visibility of that, seeing people with badges kind of half hanging off them like they were, went through the zombie apocalypse.
They just got mugged.
Oh man, it was embarrassing. I think my badge ripped in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
This is not good.
Just got put in the wallet, man.
That's the true story of the show right there, baby.
Also, why is it after 3 years now that we're arguing about early access on day 1? Can we just have somebody stand there and I understand the people at the door are just doing their jobs, but somebody in authority needs to stand at the door and say, look, no, these guys are okay to come in. We've agreed to it. They don't need to call somebody else to get them, get mommy and daddy to approve it. It's been approved. It was approved last year. It was approved the year before. Let's just move on with our lives. We get in at 9:30. Everything's okay. Can we just do that and move on with our lives?
It took a minute.
It doesn't matter. I won the true false on that one, Aaron.
You did.
I did. It doesn't matter. It's anything. If they stopped us for even a second, that's all it took.
All right, so I'm sure we all had conversations with retailers and manufacturers about CigarCon as one of the topics, and I know, at least like Dave Garofalo has already said he's not going next year. So, any other, you don't have to name names if because if people haven't publicly come out, but have you, any other interesting tidbits that you heard from retailers or brands about how this affects them for next year? I know, Charlie, you did that survey that seemed pretty interesting, but it didn't seem that they were totally against CigarCon or returning next year. It was just kind of about just some disinterest or not being happy about the leadership.
I mean, 59% of them said that CigarCon was negative.
Yeah, but none of them thought of that as I'm not coming to the show because of that. Right.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't specifically ask them that question.
Well, the question about if they're returning next, do they?
Yeah.
I think that was the one that had a 0, right? That nobody was saying no, we're not coming.
Yeah, no one. The only one person didn't decline to respond to it.
Right.
So yes, you're correct in that sense. I mean, look, I think the real outcome of the adjustment's not going to be people not showing up to the trade show, because I think there's a relatively correct impression that when you go to a trade show and then you don't go the next year, it's normally a bad sign for your company. And we haven't really seen anyone buck the trend and say otherwise. I think the real adjustment is I think there are some large manufacturers that are seriously considering a noticeable downsize. That could be very problematic.
Yeah, and then hearing manufacturers seem like there was a decent number of them that were in favor of it and that were okay with it or willing to kind of go along with it to see how it seemed. But I think a fair amount of the retailers were in the opposite kind of thought process. So, I mean, the manufacturers are some of the big ones that kind of need to be on board to be able to have a product to present. But then you also need the retailers, if that's still the way they go, of being able to, bring the consumers with them.
There was an interesting point that Dave Garofalo made. I heard a couple of other retailers make it, and it's the idea of access to the attendee data. So right now, the manufacturers have access to the retailer data as attendees. And the concern is if this goes into a consumer mode, that now the manufacturers are going to have access to the consumer data, and certain companies have more easier channels direct to consumer than other companies right now. And I know that's weighing on several of the larger retailers right now. And some of the smaller manufacturers who don't have those direct-to-consumer channels are concerned about that right now. So I think that's something that's not being told right now, and it's something that really, with this whole concept, is something that needs to be watched.
Yeah, I would agree with that. All right. Are we done with this CigarCon thing, trade show?
I just want to point out, because Charlie threw it out there, the two companies that come to mind are Southern Draw Cigars and Jassim Kroll as two cigars that buck the trend, or two cigar brands that buck the trend of not showing up at the show and then, rising from the ashes and coming back.
Yeah, I mean, but
it's pretty rare.
But also, like, neither one of them were particularly established.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, seeing Villiger taking this year off, and if they decide to come back next year, what that looks like. But they've been through a few different reincarnations of themselves. So,
I mean, like, take somebody like Padilla, for example. Like, you kind of look at the trajectory.
Who?
Yeah.
Who?
Like, it's just, and I think there's a lot of companies that are at this trade show that shouldn't be at the trade show, but like, there definitely is the perception of like, oh man, you didn't show up to the trade show this year. Like, yikes.
I mean, I think it's one of the talking points we haven't really talked about is the number of people who've threatened or will be, as per the poll, going to the TPE. And I mean, that's great. And, more trade shows are better, but TPE doesn't solve the root cause. And I think we haven't really talked about that. And we kind of talked about it, but the root cause is if there's no reason to show up to the show, if you're not getting the deals, and that seems to be what the primary driver is for retailers showing up at the trade show, if there's not a reason to show up at the trade show, it doesn't matter whether you call it TPE and you hold it in February or whether it's called a PCA and you hold it in July. They're not going to show up.
I actually disagree. Like, as someone that's been to multiple TPEs, which I think I'm the only one on this panel that can say that, has been to any TPEs. I don't think TP is the alternative by any stretch, and I know that some of you think otherwise. But I would say this. I think one area where TP, or two areas where TP does solve some of the root cause, is number one, it's a much smaller show, particularly in terms of the floor prints for an individual exhibitor. So somebody like Oliva, for example, had 2 tables at TP and had 4 employees or 5 employees. So like the
Probably for the
cost,
best based on the IPCPR experience.
absolutely. But so like I think that solves one of the root problems, which is that IPCPR has gotten to a scenario where like companies, I mean, you look at the size of Ashton's booth and then you think about like comparative trade show booths from other industries, and you're like, Ashton might have the size of a booth of somebody that does 57 times the amount of revenue that they do in a given year, because there was this arms race in terms of how big booths were and staffs and things like that. The second thing I would say is that there's a lot of other reasons to go to TPE beyond getting a good deal, because the deals aren't that great at TPE. You have the ability to go see other product spaces, particularly alternative and CBD stuff, alternative being cannabis. You have much better seminars. The timing is much better. It's a much shorter show, although getting longer. Cretech does things to try to provide entertainment outside of the show that's not entirely corny, like 38 Special. So I think that there is like an answer to like, how do we get people to go to the show if we can't just give them rock bottom prices? Like I think TP has done a very good job on that. And then on the exhibitor side, how do we like limit our costs? And our cost outlay. And look, I think a lot of the people that went to TP last year still as an exhibitor lost money, but they only lost like $400. So not a bad week, as opposed to, $25,000 or whatever Villiger was losing on an annual basis.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what kind of volume increase TPE sees. I'm sure they did some decent business or initiated some business at the trade show this year. All right, should we get on to talking about actual cigars and brands? Or we have any other topics left on this CigarCon thing? All right, let's do it. Let's talk about the positives. So booths, companies, people, cigars that you found surprising or interesting, that either going into the show you already were looking forward to, things that you found out about at the show that kind of caught your attention. Anybody want to jump in on firing away there?
I'll do 3 real quick. The 2 experiential booths, the Acid booth and the Davidoff booth, seem like really smart ideas. Like that seems like a really good segue into the consumer day, and those were pretty cool. And then finally, how smart of it was Espinosa to bring a cardboard booth? I mean, the savings on shipping alone was probably $10,000. I mean, that was genius. Yeah. Like a cardboard mini Lazona was brilliant.
They just have to keep Hector from smoking in the back. And
For an Espinosa fanboy like myself, I was thrilled.
Yeah.
That is never going to be let up.
There was a small little brand which you guys have probably never heard of. They came out with a Cameroon cigar, which was pretty exciting. I had the opportunity to smoke it. I think it's Roma Craft. That's pretty good. Baca, by the way. The Oscar Superfly garnered an
really good cigar. Really good cigar.
And I don't know if that goes against any kind of branding strategies for going with bright purple, but man, oh man, did that ever draw a lot of attention. And what else do I have on this? I have a lot on this list. The Alec Bradley Gatekeeper was kind of a surprise at the show.
Yeah. Other thoughts? I mean, Ace Prime for a first-time exhibitor seemed to have a nice booth layout and had a good draw with the celebrity on the basketball side of things. I think staffing-wise,
did that ever take place, by the way?
Yeah, apparently I never saw it, but apparently things were happening. I think John Carney beat Dominique in a free throw contest or something like that. So that's my understanding.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
There were a couple instances in which there were people on the basketball court. I don't know how organized or disorganized it was.
Yeah, it didn't. When you explained that that was going to be there, I thought I kind of envisioned something a little bit more flashy than just a mobile hoop and whatever.
Probably still costs like $8,000.
Yeah, exactly. I just thought I was gonna, seeing their booth compared to the basketball floor, I thought this is a little bit of a change up, but I don't know.
Taking you back to the streets, man.
That's true.
They should have done it in cardboard. It would have been a genius move.
You could add cardboard fans all on the side, and having one of the Popovich running down the sideline or something like that. I don't know. Set it up right. But
I thought the Plasencia Alma de Fuego was
pretty
very,
sweet.
very well done. Like,
Yep.
If you're gonna light something on fire, not in the AJ booth, like that's the way to do it. I agree with you. The Davidoff experience in particular, I thought was extremely well done. I'm not sure like how worth it was, given like this stuff is so expensive to do. And I also appreciated the fact that they were doing seminars in their booth, which I think is something that like the larger companies should be doing more of, as far as I'm concerned. And it seemed like, I mean, they didn't have room for 40 people, but the 2 times I saw seminars going on, it seemed like there was 10 people in there, which is I think probably what they were hoping for. I had something.
Charlie, didn't that make you seem? Didn't it make it seem like when you saw like the Acid experience and the Davidoff experience, it just made me instantly think like, the big My Father booth and the big Padron booth and the big Perdomo booth and the Fuente thing were just so dated. Like all of a sudden I said, okay, I can kind of see where this might be going in the future,
Yeah, absolutely. Those 2 approaches to like how to maximize value in the $10,000 you spend in that square footage, like 100%. I'm not sure the ROI was, great, but it's a lot better than just having, a couch.
Right. Or a drum set.
Yeah, although, I mean, the drum set's kind of a calling card at this point.
No, I know. It's giving a hard time.
Hey, the water lighter was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Did anyone see it work, though?
No.
Yeah.
Electrolysis is very complicated. We're just now figuring out the technology. It's very complicated.
Yeah. Mary Kate.
But hey, man, that Davidoff ping, come on, that new
buy
Davidoff ping, come on. The
ping?
Dupont,
The Dupont?
that was legit.
I'll give an
was
obligatory
a
shout
solid
out
ping.
to Diplomatico, to the Diplomatico cigar.
What?
I am curious to see if it manages to make it to market. There's a bit of a trademark issue, but
There we go.
Hashtag awkward.
Breaking news.
yeah, as it turns out, a company called Arturo Fuente has a trademark on Diplomaticos.
Who?
Yeah,
Oh boy.
they just have a floor full of attorneys. So,
Yeah, but you can't just Google that stuff, and you can't
Hey,
just go to industry experts to find that information out. It's buried. It's complicated. It's very hard to find out.
let's give Mamacha this is the first time they've ever had a trademark issue. So
Aaron, you beat me to that joke.
Is this the first time there's been a trademark issue with the company name and the and a brand name in the
I
company?
don't know. Go all in, man. Screw it.
I guess, but the only difference here is that once again, Fuente employs a full floor of attorneys.
Yes.
And I imagine those attorneys won't even be the ones that are going to handle this. So,
Right.
Charlie, most exciting cigars you saw at the show that you're looking forward to reviewing, not the crap that you dread reviewing.
that's a good question. We kind of had this conversation at dinner on Tuesday. Like, I don't look forward to reviews. It's kind of just whatever's up is up. In terms of cigars that I want to smoke, like personally speaking, I'd like to smoke Baca. I only smoked it in the petite size, so like I definitely want to see what that's going to be like in a larger format. I am curious to see what the LFD 25th tastes like, because LFD produces some good cigars. I'm more curious to see what the Ahio LFD collaboration thing tastes like, and to see how that's received, because I think it's safe to say Ahio could use a bit of a boost, and LaFleur certainly could provide that if the cigar is on point.
Who else wants to take a shot at some cigars?
Coop, come on! I know you're dying to talk about cigars.
Yeah. I think there were some nice releases this year. Room 101 Farce Maduro surprised me. I was very impressed with that cigar. I think it was one of the sleepers at a mat. I think it has a chance to be an enormous hit. I think it could appeal to a lot of people. The Balmoral Exo Nicaragua, excellent cigar. I very much enjoyed that as well. So I think those two were, I would say, some of the standouts I've had.
Coop, did you smoke the Paso Doble from?
No,
somewhere?
I didn't. I have it, but I did not smoke it yet. That one I just wanted to kind of do that on a clean palate. I had a few more of the Balmoral Exo Nicaraguas. I've had both releases from M Bombay already, the M Esteli and the M Cuba Mayor. They're very good cigars as well. I had a chance to re-smoke those as well from the trade show floor, but I had a chance to smoke some of the pre-release stuff. I think those are some of the better cigars he's put out right now. Which goes, of course, Baca, very good cigar. Different. I think I've already smoked a couple of the different sizes. I kind of like some of the different nuances that are coming out of there as well. And then I tell you, I was talking about this one earlier with John. The H. Upmann, the Hispaniola, was a surprise. I enjoyed that cigar.
I hope we're doing a segment on the over-under later in the show because that's going to be exciting.
The over-under or what?
Or we're just picking the best of the groups.
We're just picking the best of?
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll just do that.
Okay.
Shout out those. Let's talk about kind of booth traffic. I know it's kind of hard to tell because you only make your way around booths around certain times, but
No, it's not.
Any booths that you thought were busier than you expected them to be, or seemed to be able to maintain the crowds for longer than others were able to do?
Placencia was a huge shock.
Yeah.
Considering they only had one new release, technically, I was really impressed with their booth traffic.
Ventura for me, I was surprised. I know they split the booth up this year, but it certainly seemed like the investments they've made in terms of personnel and then also in terms of the physical space is somebody that's been covering that booth for 5 or 6 years now. Back when sort of no one walked into it from a media perspective, it was certainly a far cry from how it's typically been.
I mean,
yeah, we weren't able to get into the day 4 because they were completely full of people.
They did have a nice dance team, I will say that. So, out front. All right, any other booths?
Aaron, you want to talk about Ace Prime?
I mentioned them earlier, but it was pretty packed the whole time. I can't say that the staff that was kind of outside the booth was very knowledgeable about the products, but I think there was a couple people that knew what was going on. But they, everybody there was very busy. They had that little meeting room built in there, and that seemed to be quite busy as well. I would say, as expected, Dunbar Tobacco Trust and Foundation, they were constantly busy. I mean, I think we had for Nick, we made multiple visits to try to get to a few minutes with him. We had an appointment with Saka, so that was easily done. But every time we kind of were around those booths, things were happening over there.
What about CLE had a pretty good show? I mean, CLE had a pretty good traffic, I've noticed, too.
CLE was packed.
CLE always
is doing well.
The booth's like 4 sizes too small.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair argument, too.
Maybe that's a good strategy, though.
But that's what Christian's been open about it for years. As soon as he shrunk the booth a few years ago, I mean, he was like, "Look, like, how do you make it look busier with the same amount of people? You cut the space 40%."
Yep.
Yeah, I think, but it was definitely his reps and stuff were engaged. I mean, that's the one thing I'll say is that they were talking to customers. That's because I know Bear went to that booth and he had to go back a few times there just because to get some help there. It was a little tough that day.
Yeah, but like if you take the booth, like if you look at like the square footage and like measure out like how big the displays are, and you take the same ratio the CLE booth has and apply that to the general booth would look slammed. But instead, there's all that open area in the middle, and there's area for you to actually physically walk around. And so the general booth kind of looks empty, even though there's more people in it than probably any other booth not named Your State.
Right.
So there was an interesting comment, which I agree with at the media house, which we will protect the person who said it because it was a good comment. But do you guys think that, I mean, every year we talk about the boutique companies and the boutique brands are slammed at the show every single year. And this is one of the few years where, as I was sitting in Tatuaje and I looked over the Padron booth and it was empty. It was like a ghost town. We walked past Oliva, it was a ghost town. We walked past some of the larger booths, ghost towns. And it just seems like some of the larger booths maybe aren't quite as hungry or aren't maybe I don't know if you want to say resting on the laurels, but why is it that, some of the boutique brands who are approaching medium-sized booths are packed and completely slammed for day one, day two, day three. And some of these larger brands who do a significant number of business are, pretty empty by day two.
John, that is a great point, and I was going to make that point. Was the big, and I kind of did earlier in the show, but the big mega booths.
Get out of my head, or we're gonna have to have a fight.
I know. The My Father's, the Padrones, the Olivas, those big giant fortress booths. I mean, from my perception, just seemed completely dead. I could be wrong. I mean, I don't know. I walked by them.
Chairs? Is that what the problem is?
I mean, I really don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about this, but that was my perception, is that they seem just really, really dead. And I don't really know what that says, other than maybe there wasn't enough excitement around releases, or I really don't know. But you made a good point there. That's true.
Padron doesn't open up a lot of new accounts at the show. They didn't have any new product.
But they have a ginormous booth, Coop.
They do. I think a little bit of Padron is a lot like what Skip does in years he does, where they try to have to showcase the brand, to kind of have it, maybe they don't have something new, but showcase all the things that have happened with the brand and some of the history. I think that's what Padron tends to do more. That's always been my feeling on that.
And it seemed like in the Fuente booth, and again, this is just my perception, but it seemed like, the J.C. Newman stuff was more interesting and people were more excited about it than, what Fuente was doing. I don't know. Again,
J.C. Newman was packed.
Yeah, they had it going on.
Fuente had tins, and they redid a sampler.
Right.
I don't know.
Tins are exciting, right?
Well, they're from 1992. Opus X Angel Share from 92. Great. So, look, I think that, I remember I went by the Southern Draw booth for the second year in a row and have been like, oh, crap, this is, you're crazy busy. But then you, do a head count, and not to, dig at all at Robert Holt, but, the head count ends at, 15. Mm-hmm. There are 15 people on 4 couches in the Oliva booth. And I will agree to some extent. I was in the Oliva booth, and I was like, well, this kind of looks slow. I kind of know all these people. They're all reps. And then an hour later, I was back in the Oliva booth because I forgot to take a picture of something. And all of a sudden, it seemed like 3/4 of the reps had meetings, which meant that there was, essentially double the amount of people in the booth, if not more. It's always tough. I think that some of this gets back to the point I was trying to make at the tail end about TPE to John, which was, some of these companies just have booths that are so big,
right?
And maybe they're necessary to do old-fashioned business, but many of these companies will tell you that the top grossing rep in terms of who writes the most amount of orders at the trade show is a guy that has the least amount of customers at the show. It's the guys from Florida, it's the guys from Pennsylvania and New York State. Those guys do a ton of business. You kind of break it down. Those guys plus the Texas rep, that's usually your 3 biggest territories. And oftentimes it's sitting in a corner on the phone, just pumping out orders. That's the key.
Yeah.
All right. So any booths, brands, cigars that were disappointing to you, something that you had an high expectation for, or something that brand just didn't come out with anything or didn't showcase things well? Any of those that popped to mind?
Come on.
Everybody going to jump in at once?
Can we talk about how the traffic at Drew Estate seemed a little slightly lower than last year?
I would agree with that.
Is that a fair statement?
I don't know. They seemed like on day 4, they were the only ones that had anything going on.
Yeah.
Well, the traffic wasn't empty. It just, I would say in years gone by, you probably would have to throw a couple elbows or shoulders to get past the giant wall to get into the booth itself.
Yeah, but don't you think that's just a statement on the show's attendance in general?
Attendance increase. What do
you Absolutely, that could be 100% what it is.
I think if you look at the relative scheme of things, if you look at the relative scheme of things, it will probably, if you say maybe the 4th or 5th most crowded booth last year, I think they were still the 4th or 5th most crowded booth this year. I'm just throwing an arbitrary number out there. I think relatively they were still the same. It was just more of a product of less people there.
Right.
I will say I don't know what the long-term strategy is for Zycar, but I had dinner with the QI folks or some of them before the show, and we were talking about kind of what the new QI Zycar joint presence was going to look like, and just in terms of the amount of people that they were bringing, I think Zycar probably brought too many people, but I think there was like 15 or 16 total employees, which probably last year or at least 2 years ago before the companies had merged, there was probably 30, 32, 35 total employees, somewhere in that neighborhood. So, and certainly when you walked the QI booth, it felt like the QI booth and not like the Zycar booth, and maybe that's the right thing going forward. But in terms of downgrades, that was the far and away the most notable one from 2018.
The branding strategy was weird because I felt like we walked past, and this could have just been us and we were dazed, but I felt like we walked past the Zycar booth like 4 times, and Seth turned to me at one point and was like, "Where's Zycar?"
That was me. I was like, I don't think I've seen it yet.
Standing right next to them, and it's like, holy shit! Like I didn't even realize that Zycar, that giant space,
Yeah.
is Zycar.
Well, there wasn't like it wasn't like where Davidoff and DuPont, like where there's like a very clear separation that this is like the DuPont section, even if there's not like a gigantic SC DuPont sign. And like the Zycar booth was so distinctive because they made all their employees wear blue polo shirts, for better and worse. But yeah, it certainly was like, this is the QI booth with some Zycar cases set up and some Zycar ads. And that's certainly a large adjustment.
Charlie, you cover a lot more accessories than I do. Would you say this was a down year for accessories than in previous years?
Maybe I mean Halfwheel does, but Patrick covers I think more than anyone else does because he handles the lighters for us.
Right.
In terms of like thinking of the lighters that we've covered, I don't know, and the cutters and humidors and those sorts of things. Like I guess I mean from the humidification side, there was the random Chinese electronic humidifier company that was interesting. Boveda had multiple competitors from the cannabis space that came in some capacity to the trade show, so that's interesting. Daniel Marshall finally introduced his humidification system. That's kind of interesting. On the cigar lighter side, the Bugatti replaceable lighter thing, which I think is kind of a bad concept, is interesting. The Mary Kate and Ashley DuPont collaboration is interesting. The water lighter, interesting. The Perfect Ping is something I might actually buy. The cutter side, Benchmade had its cutters. I still don't think they're going to cut properly. The Calibri Quasar tabletop cutter is something that I will absolutely buy. The new Zycar cutter is actually much thinner than the XO, so I would say that's interesting. I don't know. I think there's, I would, without like comparing notes 1-to-1 with 2018, there seems to be quite a bit of accessory stuff to be excited about.
It seemed like there was less. That was just my perception. It just
yeah, there was probably less. I mean,
yeah, there was. Yeah, I mean that's what's kind of. There was a lot. There was a lot less from Calibri and Zycar this year.
Well, I mean, I can just tell you right off the bat the two biggest. Oh boy, the two biggest pains in the ass are LE Blue and SC DuPont, and LE Blue in particular probably had half of what they had last year, and DuPont probably had 20 or 30% less. So, I mean, those two reductions alone are probably worth 45, 50 SKUs.
Sure.
I'm gonna throw a hand grenade in the chat because that's what I do. So Steve Saka and Nick Melillo have been sort of linked since the very beginning. They started their brands. The progression of the two brands have been linked every year. They've been compared every year. Do you guys feel, because both booths were absolutely slammed all day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. Do you guys feel that there was the same excitement level about the cigars they're releasing this year compared to, say, last year for the two brands?
No, and I'm going to go to the bathroom.
Easy way out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Coop.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that, but they've been. This is now 5 years, right? These companies have been there, so you can't just keep topping it every year, right now. Nick's signature release was under the High Castle brand this year. I didn't go to Bear Covered Foundation this year, but he was telling me it was still pretty crowded. When I went to Steve's booth, it was on day 4. And so it was a tough gauge for me to gauge, I guess, traffic there. But I think Sober Mesa Brulee was one of the cigars that I think was one of the hottest cigars at the show. I don't think it disappointed. I think it was probably still one of the top 5 hottest cigars out there.
Yeah, I think that this year it seemed like, just my perception is, there was more buzz around Steve's 2 releases than Nick's, but I mean both booths were hopping and lots of excitement for both. So that's not really a diss on Nick or anything. It just seemed like Steve sort of had a lot of buzz going this year, I think.
I agree.
Yeah,
I
one
agree.
thing I'd be really interested to find out is how well the Upsetters does for him. I would just be curious as to how the dollars match up compared to the more traditional.
Well, I mean, the interesting thing about that space is that it's getting more complicated now that Lars Tetens has brought back, a challenge to that product space.
Hey, man, you got to put in the work.
Yeah. You can't just come in and play guitars and expect people to buy cigars. You got to
Cowboy
hang
Rebel.
it out on the floor.
So dangerous. Nobody got that one. It's all right.
Yeah.
It's all right.
All right. So any other booths that you thought were slower than they should have been? I mean, like it's hard to tell because when you get to day 3 and day 4, a lot of booths are just ghost towns. But like I would say, like my father and things like that. Just when I saw that, it was just like
Dead.
They
everybody's
look dead.
around.
AP Korea was dead.
How about the La Polina booth?
Dead.
Yeah.
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 So here's the funniest thing: that little lounge they had up front, where you like the finish your cigar here thing. I thought that was their actual booth when I first saw it. I was like, that's about right over there.
Yeah. I'll tell you who was actually a booth that was not packed, but really crowded on day 4. Perdomo was still going strong on day 4. And I saved Perdomo for the last day, and they were great. They gave me some time to help me out, but it was not like they were writing orders. They were busy that last day, and I think I got there about 11:30. So we are getting towards the end of the trade show, and that's a big boost. And I'm just saying it was very active right now there.
Yeah. All right. Any other ones? We'll move on to the.
I got one cigar disappointment though.
All right.
CAO session was a big letdown. For the second year in a row, I've been let down by CAO.
Took
I
you
think
2
there's-
years to be let down by CAO.
I mean, no, CAOs. I mean, they were in a little bit of a renaissance, with Amazon Basin. I thought the Palone was a good cigar.
Palone was a great cigar, and
Yeah.
I think Ricky did not get enough.
He did.
love
He
for
did.
that.
I mean, he didn't, and he's done Ricky's done some great work. Now, I haven't tried the new Flathead yet. I have the new Flathead. I haven't tried that yet. So be fair. But Flathead. He said what you want. Flathead was a good release, and they got number 3 cigar of the year with it. I don't know. The Nicaragua
Wait,
was
is
a
that
big
consensus or CA?
CA.
Oh, if it's not consensus, so why?
Yeah, it's not legitimate. That's what we
It's
said.
not
This
legit-
office all the time.
Let's see the data. Show me the data.
Yeah.
But again, my son worked retail for a while. I know, that's flat. People always coming in and asking for flatheads. Even up till a few months ago, before he stopped working where he did.
All right, so we'll get into noticeable absences because we already know Villiger basically was the big company. But do we see going forward that there was we think anybody's going to really pull out from the show because of all the drama around this, or they kind of use that as an excuse to leave when they just don't have an ROI on actually coming to the trade show? Any thoughts on how many booths, big or small, will kind of stop coming?
I wouldn't be surprised to see Warp not there next year.
You think they just they don't have the draw anymore, or?
Well, to Dojo's point, remember when Kyle was on the show, Aaron?
Yeah.
I'm just speculating here. I don't know. He's got some concerns. I mean, and he said that on the air.
Yeah.
I could see it. I mean, certainly it's a possibility.
I don't understand why can't you downsize your booth? Why can't you bring it down?
How much smaller could he make his booth?
Well, want to go back to his original booth? That was fine.
It was like he shared a booth with Sindicato, and so
Not his original booth.
By the way, we're Sindicato. Did you see Sindicato at the Gurkha booth?
Here we go.
What has happened to Sindicato?
Can we get back to companies that are relevant, or at least semi-relevant?
Fair enough. I couldn't resist that. I should have said that one in the last
No,
segment.
but seriously, I mean, there's just no point. It is what it is at this point.
Exactly.
You should read the article in Tobacco Business Magazine. They have some great quotes in there.
Okay.
As Colucci reports that last year was one of the best for Sindicato, despite a lingering problem of getting brokers to represent the brand nationwide. Quote, if you're interested in becoming a Sindicato member, you can contact me and I will take the request to the board, he says. Quote, we're growing little by little, and I don't think there is a retailer in the country that we would turn down unless they were willing to agree to the terms of membership regarding our price guidelines.
You just happen to have that there, Charlie, right?
I was texting with someone earlier. I replied to that last one saying, look, I'm not saying we're desperate. I'm not saying push comes to shove. We may eat the dog. I think the question with Warp though is like, what's the actual strategy with the brand? It seems like it probably needs to be one that's going to release a whole bunch of new products in limited quantities to get people excited. That's not the most profitable method of how to run a cigar company, but for that audience, it probably is the right approach. And Warp really hasn't done that. Excuse me. And now it has this drop thing, where it's trying to sell directly to consumers in that exact capability, although not in like a entirely logic, like it's set up like a wine business in that regard. So I don't know. I mean, like, what's the value of Warp going to the trade show at this point? It might be very little.
Right, that's true, but it's just still an answer to
absolutely
the question. And there's other companies that have to be feeling like he is, maybe not vocalizing it to media groups. So that's just maybe it's just a little indicator, or like taking the temperature. It does say something about the show next year.
Well, I think that if you're in a situation like Oscar or Placencia, which and you have a large network of retailers that you need to service, the show makes a lot of sense. But my guess is that Kyle has probably less than half of the number of retailers or active retailers than both of those brands, despite the fact that we probably consider Warp to be in roughly the same category as the other two. And I made this point with Villiger, with Brooks, of like, Villiger is a big name, and it's an established name in Europe. It's a massive company, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But in the U.S., particularly in brick and mortar, like Leaf by Oscar not showing up at the trade show would be a more consequential outcome. And so I think that you have to remember what the trade show is about, which is brick and mortar retailers, largely the A's and the B's, and largely about big discounts and new products. And so if you're not going to engage in those things, then you're going to end up being like Padron, where you just don't have a ton of people in your booth.
Yep. All right. So let's talk about logistics of the trade show. So moving forward, what options does the PCA have to improve things? Are we talking about smaller booth sizes? Do we think that Consumer Day on the first day, leaving 3 days to do business, makes the show busier for those full 3 days? How do you see the show moving forward?
I said this to Scott in the press conference. I wrote about it as well. I've been going to a lot of these conventions and trade shows. The last day is always going to be a down day. It's in human nature is people are going to leave early. I think they're taking a risk, counting on getting that business on the last day. I think it's a huge risk they're taking there.
But I think you talked about something earlier in the year, and I think there's a lot of strength behind it, which is the IPCPR, now PCA, needs to take a lot of lessons from the Habanos Festival.
Yeah.
In that just showing up passively to a trade show, go visit some booths, write up some orders, et cetera, go to the opening gala, get some cigars, get some food.
Gummies.
It's not enough.
That would be enough.
So what?
Gummies.
Gummies?
Don't take too many. That's the
hashtag gummies. Don't take more than one, bro.
Just don't compare your weight to Hector's and think that like, oh, okay, I'm gonna be okay.
Sorry, John, we derailed that.
Hashtag one is enough.
I'm still confused. Sorry, they need to not phone it in? That's the argument?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great way to surmise the don't phone it in.
I think phoning it in would be better than these new innovative approaches, though.
I think they're desperate. I think you see.
Sure, but I'd rather them
massive.
phone it in than this nonsense.
Well, I mean, I'm not on the board, so I can't make those decisions. I can't say, look, if only there was a way to look at other successful strategies around the world and borrow some of the ideas and maybe set up dinners with exciting people in the industry. But sadly, the industry is so small. And there's no interesting people. They went in a different route. So, I mean, they're pot committed. It's clear that they're pot committed for Comic-Con, Cigar-Con, Person-Con, whatever. Godzilla-Con.
I mean, I don't think they are yet. And this is why I don't think it happens. Is I think as soon as they get the bill, they get a contract sometime in January, let's say, for 4,500 dinners and they've sold 200 tickets. I just don't think they're going to sign that. And then. So you're gonna buy dinner for 200 people? You're gonna buy dinner for 400 people? Like what?
Yeah.
What's the bigger embarrassment? Like, is it when 200 people show up, or 400 people show up, or you just cancel it outright?
Could you imagine? Yeah, if that happens, and I think that's a real possibility. And that's kind of you say you don't. They fall way short of this. I don't know how they pull this off. I would have waited one more. I would have waited one more year with it personally, and really kind of start socializing the idea it's coming in 2021.
Or stand up on stage and be like, ladies and gentlemen, this is a motherfucking cash grab. We are here to take your money. And here's why we're here to take it, because Rocky's going to make some number up about how much the lawsuit costs. But also, these lawsuits aren't going away. We have more of them to deal with. We're about to file something in Maryland, a lawsuit we never thought we were going to get involved with because we thought the FDA would win it against the health groups. And, oh, by the way, the cost of doing business in Congress and at the local state house, that's going to continue to increase because guess what? Canada, more tobacco regulations are coming. And
I'm shocked.
Everyone benefits.
What? No.
Everyone
that's
benefits.
That's going to be all solved by a phone call.
Obviously right. So everyone benefits from the lawsuit. No one's having to put warning labels on their boxes. No one's having to register or do testing on their product yet, depending on how that Maryland thing goes. No one's having to do HPHC nonsense. Advertising plans basically don't mean anything at the moment. And so we got to pay for this somehow because the bill is dramatically more than what we originally anticipated it was going to be. So option A is we can charge the manufacturers more. And I see the manufacturers in the corner of the room going, fuck that. Cool. Yep. Option B is we can charge the retailers more, and I can see both the manufacturers and the retailers going, fuck that. So option C is we can get money from the consumers, who are ultimately going to end up paying for this, however we split this up, regardless. And if they had started the premise with that of look, these are our bills, they're not going away, and they're only going to get bigger. I think the conversation amongst us and amongst many of the other people would be like, hey, I guess we kind of got to do this, right? Unless anyone's got any better ideas, and there probably are better ideas, but God forbid we mention them. Yeah. But at least the narrative.
Sorry, can I just point out, Charlie, that there's been, not from us, but has there been a significant number of ideas floated to the IPCPR from retailers, from manufacturers?
To solve the problem?
Yeah.
Not to solve this one.
No.
Is that the answer? Facebook is the answer?
I mean, they really haven't presented this one. They haven't talked about how, the CAA is a joint member of, it's supposed to be a third between the IPCPR, the CAA, and the CRA. And the CAA balked at some of those bills because they disagreed about how the legal strategy was going. That wasn't mentioned. The CRA, for the most part, hasn't mentioned the fact that their executive board members are having, are shouldering a disproportionate amount of the legal bill than every other manufacturer in the business. We just don't have these conversations. And so then people, 8 people get together in a steakhouse and they come up with this, wonderful idea of Consumer Day, and then they try to go out and sell it. But I think the framing is so important. And certainly Scott Pierce would say, well, fuck you, Barry, and fuck you, Charlie, because you ruined my ability to frame this correctly. But the correct framing is we need the money. And so this is how we're going to go about getting it. And if you have any other ideas to get more money, cool. But 100%, this is a cash grab. And we're not ashamed of it. And all of you are benefiting from what we're using this cash for. It's not to build a new patio onto the IPCPR offices.
I agree 1,000%. I I agree 1,000% with Charlie said. If there was a business case and the business problems better presented, they would have had a much better way of doing this. And they weren't going to, whether this leaked out or not, that wasn't happening because they weren't prepared to discuss anything like that. So,
but I mean, even with their discussion about how profitable this venture is going to be, I mean, if you're not profitable within 2 or 3 years, I mean, it's not a cash grab. It's a cost out. Like
that is the problem. Is that it's not only is it going to be a loss, it's going to be a loss even if you sell out for potentially 3 years.
Exactly. Yeah, it makes zero sense because they haven't thought it through. Like, I don't know how you launch this thing and you can't answer the questions. You don't have the logistics laid out. I mean, I 100% believe that there's a chance that they have to scuttle it because they just can't do it. Like they're going to find out the logistics don't work, or they just can't sell enough tickets, or whatever it is, or the retailers just really completely balk at it and say
it's not the retailers, it's the manufacturers. I mean,
manufacturers. Yeah,
we surveyed however many 34 manufacturers responded to our survey. 6 out of the 7 companies that said they did $10 million in annual revenue or higher or greater said that they had lost faith in the IPCPR. The 7th no commented and literally wrote, I cannot comment, or like literally wrote no comment. They just didn't circle it. And then they wrote May to like, do you think consumers day is a good idea?
But how many of them had already renewed their booths?
A whole bunch of them haven't.
Yeah.
But what, 11 had?
Sorry?
Was the stat 11 had already renewed their booths? I think.
Well, 5 of the largest companies had not renewed their booth.
Okay, there we go.
A suicide pact they did the Monday before the trade show. The IPCPR, the Monday before the trade show, the IPCPR had 5 manufacturers had gotten together, 5 of the largest. They approximately, let's call it 19% of the trade show floor, had agreed that they were not going to sign up for 2020 space until after the 2019 show had ended. And that's something that just doesn't happen. The way that they normally sell trade show space is you start with the big people, very much how you would lay out a room. So you would put your bed where it needs to go, and then your dresser, and then your nightstand, and then you can figure out where all the small stuff goes, or your sex swing, whatever you're going to do. And so these large companies had declined, knowing that it would screw up how the IPCPR was going to end up having to sell space.
And from what I heard,
actually, to correct something really quick, you always have to do the sex swing first.
No, that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah, that you do first, then you figure out the other stuff. Personal experience.
And there was definitely a trickle down to some of the middle-sized and smaller companies that basically said, you know what, we're going to hold off on reserving booth space. We'll take a chance we don't get as good a location. So they're kind of seeing that too, saying, well, you know, based on what they saw last year, booth location may not be as important because there was some very good booth locations that didn't do well this year.
Did Lawson Risa do that?
Who's that?
Lawson Risa. They were the people whose booth was pointed the wrong way.
Oh, yeah. God. I
would not recommend that as a strategy.
Oh, my goodness.
Listen, all this talk about, I just want to point this out, all this talk about booth space and booth size and booth location, does anyone believe that Skip Martin could, or, you know, Steve Saka or Nick Molillo could pick a booth randomly on the floor near the bathrooms, near the corner, near the front, near the back, near the wherever, and not be packed for the entire show?
Well, look what Saka was the first year. He was by the, he was in one of the worst booth locations.
He was in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Better yet, look at where Coots was the last time they were at the trade show. You had to walk by them to get into the show, and everyone did. And stopped.
Well, look at what Tony Bellato was. He had a great booth location this year, and his booth was not crowded.
I mean, this whole idea that booth location matters is asinine.
That's what I think. I think some of the companies wised up right now, and they said, you know,
this was CES, where like it was so big that you actually needed a map to get around. Like, yeah, booth location would matter, but this is not that big of a trade show, even for, you know, the out of shape IPCPR attendee. Like, you can power through, you can get across the floor.
I feel personally attacked by that.
Oh, Charlie? Yeah, you're an IPCPR member.
Yeah.
All right.
Listen, Rocky can put his booth anywhere, and he's still going to get beat.
Exactly. Yeah. I got a question from the chat room. Would it be smarter for the PCA to start out with a smaller kind of consumer day, similar to a Big Smoke kind of evening thing, to kind of gauge interest and to see how this actually played out, not, you know, incur so much cost or go for this huge, scanning app or whatever it is. Would that make more sense to kind of just see how it kind of kicks off and kind of grow from there?
Sure. Why don't you take all
course
the
it would.
consumers that are being invited right now and have been invited every year to the IPCPR and have a conversation with them about what brings them to the show and tailor the show around them?
Or why don't you have a more productive conversation with retailers and manufacturers about how to fix this?
Like there's a reason why Big Smoke is not held at the Venetian. It's not because Cigar Aficionado has some gigantic, I mean, at least to my knowledge, has some gigantic issue, with Sheldon Adelson. The reason why Big Smoke isn't held at the Venetian is because it's extremely expensive to do business at the Venetian. And even for a magazine that promotes itself as the definitive luxury lifestyle magazine for men, which we can debate later about whether that's true, like they can't run a profitable event, or at least not as profitable as they'd like to, doing it there. So they go to the Mirage, which is nice, but not as nice. And I think that I understand the IPCPR's desire to say, we already have this trade show floor set up. People are already spending all this money on booths. How can we add some revenue on top of that? But the other problem becomes is that every time somebody needs a bottle of water, it's like $3.25. Whereas if you go down the road, it's half that cost. And so I think that as long as they can, I mean, the number that Davidoff told me about how much they allocated to spend on the Davidoff dinner, it's insane. If you found out the number, you'd be like, why can't we just go to a very, very nice restaurant and just have a good meal? I mean, it's so expensive to do things in the Venetian. And I think as long as they continue to try to do things there, they're going to run into the cost of, $4 waters and $3 bags of potato chips and everything else.
It's really good water, though.
Yeah, it's great.
It's really good.
Great water.
They did have a fair amount of water stations around, which was kind of nice.
Yeah. See? You can just bring in your own bottle and refill it.
And they had a little bar over by the lunch area, so you could buy drinks if you wanted to.
Hey guys, what happened to all the media parties? No general media party, no Drew Estate media party.
Yeah.
Seemed like what happened? What's the scoop there?
Fuck the media, man.
We had the compound party. We knocked them out of bed.
Well, we had the dojo party.
Halfwheel didn't get invited to either one of those things.
I'm just wondering.
Yes, you did.
Brooks was invited. He was supposed to invite everybody, but I know
you guys are invited.
Hashtag blame Brooks.
Did we not invite Brooks and Charlie?
If you
We invited Brooks personally.
Look, if you tell Brooks, hey, Brooks, I need you to do this, and tell everyone else at Halfwheel about this, I mean, you might as well go into the women's bathroom and try to invite as effective.
We did go in the women's bathroom and invite people. So
I'm telling you, that would be more effective than telling Brooks to tell us.
Yeah.
Just for the record, for 2020, open invite for Cigar Media for the Cigar Media House. You just got to be prepared to argue tobacco till 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Get your content done early, Charlie, that night is all I'll tell you. Yeah.
No, we'll just have you guys do it. Crowdsource this bullshit.
There you go.
No.
So, all right, let's talk about the house situation a little bit. So, Eric, you guys, this is the first year you guys did the house?
We did a house. It was a great little house in a terrible, terrible neighborhood. And it was great. Like, from the backyard, we had like a little sanctuary, a pool and stuff where we could go and hang out. I could see like Trump Tower. I could see Caesar's Palace. There was a palm tree on my right. 2 crackheads having sex on my left. It was amazing.
Nice.
And we did have it. It was in a terrible neighborhood, but it was great.
Though?
What?
Was it gated?
Yeah, it was gated.
Oh, there you go. You're fun.
And we felt fine. Once we were in the backyard hanging by the pool. Honestly, I saved a ton of money this year. We saved a ton of money because, instead of $19 cocktails, we just went to the grocery store, bought a bunch of beer and bourbon, and then hung out. It was absolutely amazing.
It's definitely better than kind of the hotel living for the.
Oh yeah,
right?
Yeah, and not only that, but like hotel living, you have your group, you have your guys, and you have two rooms, 3 rooms, whatever you have to have, and come 10, 11 o'clock, and you're down in the casino, wherever you are, you're talking, and then eventually, some guys get tired, they want to go to bed, blah blah blah. So your group splits up, but when you have the house, it's nice because everybody can just hang out in the house till 3 a.m. and and talk. And if you want to go to bed, you just go to bed. So that part of it was great. We actually got some work done. We covered way, way more content this year than we've ever done in the past. And I think in large part it was because of, having the house.
Right. And Charlie Halfwheel still likes the hotel space close to the trade show and in the Venetian or Palazzo side of things.
Yeah. Look, we're different. We try to cover the show live. It a great financial expense. I was doing the math earlier. We spent basically twice as much money at this year's trade show without like paying salaries for Brooks, Patrick, and I, as we generated in revenue the first year of Halfwheel. So it's not cheap, but we look at it more from a time perspective. Every 5 minutes that we can save is probably worth $100. So not having to get in a car, not having to wait for Brooks who was quite on top of things this year, as I will point out, not his normal lateness, but 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, 5 minutes there, it all adds up. And we were on the trade show floor till probably 6:45 at a minimum every single day. So it's just a different, trying to produce live content at the trade show, excuse me, even with all of the staff that we have, is a pain in the ass and apparently very expensive.
Sure. All right. Any other topics you guys want to cover before we get into some over-unders and some other picks and stuff like that? I know, John, you had a long list.
Yeah, I have a long list. So one of the things that I thought was stand out at this show was the number of new products, which you probably, however you want to bend, predicate, whatever branding, would not fall into the predicate branding. So brand new companies, brand new brands, brand new cigars. So I kind of wanted to do a roundtable and see what people thought about that, whether that was just, at this point, people are just throwing up balls to see what happens, see if the FDA slaps them down. What's going on with that?
I think there's some brands that have bought other predicate blends and things like that and releasing stuff under those pretenses, but I think there's probably a fair number that are just coming out with new products, and until somebody gets hit by something, they'll keep doing, running as status quo.
It was the wild, wild west, baby. Everybody was it was back to 2014, people just coming out with new brands, new lines for the most part.
Yeah, I think you can see with Davidoff, you can kind of see distillery edition is clearly something that somebody was at 2 a.m. They were like, oh my God, we should do distillery edition. Let's put that in the spreadsheet. And then you've got on the far end of the spectrum, Reste is doing a THC infused cigar. That is under no circumstance could you in any capacity argue is FDA approved,
right.
Or would somehow be pre-August of 2016 and certainly not February 15th of 2007. But why not? I've said sort of from day one that until FDA does, until they start to do SE, what's the grand consequence going to be for Reste? It's probably going to get told, don't do this again.
Yeah.
I looked at the big companies this year. General seemed to do a lot more limited, and they brought back a few things. Davidoff obviously they didn't have much as a whole overall.
Coop, remember when you said you, under no circumstance would you believe Davidoff would have nothing new?
I was wrong.
Yeah.
I completely was right. I thought a line extension or something. Maybe they showcased one of the limiteds coming out later this year, if there is one. But they had. I was blown away by that. I was shocked.
Yeah, we were told that Davidoff had nothing new. We weren't told about any of the other stuff, but they were pretty clear. They do have a $25,000 humidor that wasn't at the show, but is.
Yeah, like I said, I was that.
You want to buy a $25,000 humidor?
No, I can't.
How about a $16,000 cigar cutter from LFD? I don't know.
I just want the new lighter with that fancy new ping, man. It got me in my brain.
No, that's great.
But I think some of I've talked to a few of the companies, and they're starting to tell me some of that predicate stuff, that list is starting to get thinner right now in terms of what they can do. And these are more I'm hearing it from the bigger companies right now.
I guess, but they could just repackage it.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's what they could do. we've seen a lot of that obviously with some of this with the Davidoff Vault things too. I'm sure that's repackaged stuff, but
Well, no, but like you could tell the FDA that like this CAO dildo edition is actually CAO MX2.
Yeah.
Sure you could, yeah.
No, but
Yeah.
like that there's because of the way that court decision went down, like if you tell the FDA like this is just CAO MX2 repackaged, it's the same sizes, same box counts. I know it says CAO dildo edition on it, but it's really MX2. Like as far as the FDA is concerned, that's
I
you're
can
on
tell
the
you,
up and up.
there's companies. I don't want to name the companies. They've showed me the
Someone's
books.
doing dildo edition.
No, they're not doing dildo just, but they have books. Pretty much, they have documentation that is showing things like that. They're releasing things that are quote unquote new, but they are mapping back to older products and in the company's portfolio.
The real question is, why is Charlie so fascinated with dildos?
I mean, look, Eric, if you got to walk around the trade show with all these phallic-looking objects for 4 fucking days, no one there, your mind starts taking you places, and you're like, maybe we should start half dildo.
If that's your answer, okay.
Look, just trying to generate another revenue stream, just like the IPCPR.
There you go.
All right, John, what's next?
Probably more money in that.
Yeah, there's probably way more money in that. I'm looking down my list. It's a very, very long list. We're doing over under later.
Edit that list. Come on now.
Yeah, get to the good ones.
All right. Well, he finds that. I have a question for Coop. Who gets the award for worst media strategy prior to the trade show, not named the IPCPR?
Coop? No, I mean it could be me.
No, but like, who gets the award for like pain in the ass to deal with? Didn't want to talk. Like, who gets the award?
That's a good one,
Dude, who knows?
I mean, I've had a couple that I've just given up trying to get contact with right now. But in terms of
Trying to buy John time here.
No, I'm trying to think. That's a good question.
I always liked you, Charlie.
I mean, I've been frustrated. I've been very frustrated with El Artista, but they're a smaller company. I mean, Fuente's one. That's almost like pulling on a rope at this point. Ashton's been tough.
They don't have anything new.
Yeah, don't have anything new, but they've always been just difficult. Someone who had something new. So I have most of the stuff. I have pretty good relationships with some of these folks. So I mean, those are really the 3 companies I've been frustrated with right now.
I mean, Coop, do you always think there's going to be the segment between cigar companies that are kind of caught in the old school mentality of the cigar industry and the industry that's either evolved or is the new industry that gets how social media works and how there's a whole new marketing segment out there?
No, there's certain companies out there that they've been sending, like they used to send the faxes to Cigar Aficionado 25 years ago, and that's how and that's how they're going to do it. I mean, so if you're going to cover, Padron and Fuente, pretty much that's the case. Oliva's gotten a lot. I think Oliva's gotten a little better in recent years since Jay Cortez has been in there. So I look at those, in terms of that's how they do it right now. Padron, obviously, I put into that category as well. So I mean, and you're just not gonna. They're not gonna deal with the media. But they're big enough where they're worse. That stuff you're gonna have to chase down and invest the cycles in. That's just the way it is.
I would nominate an RN Prometheus who sent us the press release or their like catalog at 9:45 the morning of day one, and then why we were posting it.
What were people's thoughts of dealing with the general booth this year with Victoria gone? Difference?
Listen, you can't possibly expect anyone to step in the shoes, whatever size they were, of Victoria and be successful. I mean, arguably one of the people who is at the top of the game for the industry. You've set the bar so high, there's absolutely no way that anybody possibly could even come close, in my opinion.
The problem with the general booth, well, Gary was doing it this year, and I don't think this was Gary's problem. Gary was doing like 4 different things they had him doing, right? Where Victoria was always focused on that. So it definitely affected the flow, but I don't put that on Gary. This seemed like, in general, the last year, I've just seen things break down from media communications in general. Now it's like you have to deal with all these different brand managers where I used to be able to just get everything from Victoria, and now that's no longer the case right now. And I don't understand General the way they've kind of just been trickling some of these releases out, like, you know, and they're just not. I mean, I understand you don't want to invest a lot of marketing dollars, but some of these releases, damn, just send an email out or something saying we got this release. It like the Spanish press with Gloria, it was just, you know, they didn't have a complete media list with that. So I was like, I'm chasing down Steve for that stuff. Like, Steve, what's up with this? I never had that problem beforehand. So it's almost like General is divided up into these little individual brands right now, and you have to deal with all these individual brands. I don't think that's very effective.
Well, that's definitely the way they want to run that going forward.
Oh, it's clear. It was very clear to me. I was told that as well.
At the show, Gary did a really good job, right? At the show.
Yeah, I mean, he did as good as he could, kind of taking that on, I think.
Because I know that when we went in there, like, we had two different groups, and we, like, covered each half. And he like made sure that boom, 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 we could.
He was good, but it wasn't as efficient because he was doing other things.
I don't think I dealt with Gary at the show.
I mean, Gary kind of started us off, and then we kind of bounced around, you know, and he would kind of check in with us every once in a while, but we kind of did our own tour through the.
But I'd also argue that, like, of all the like large booths where you really don't need someone to take you around, General's probably the one.
Yeah.
Because you just go station to station. They have someone parked right there who's
Right.
going to give you the spiel anyway.
Yep.
Like, you just need someone at the end to be like, here's all your samples. Does anyone have all the samples all together so we can show all the consumers at home? And
I'm
then,
just there for the samples.
yeah. And then, you know, like, here's all the press releases. And that's kind of like, Victoria was great. But, like, I always would feel like why Victoria, like, I don't really need you so that, like, I can make sure that I get from the Partagas to the CAO section without getting mugged. Like,
I think if you looked at this cigar booth, the General booth 2 or 3 years ago, I think it would have been impossible to navigate on your own. Like, if you went back to 2015, 2016, and you tried to do the General booth without Victoria organizing it, there's absolutely no way you could hit every single brand.
So 15 would have been the last year of Foundry.
Mm-hmm.
And then 16 was the last year of the old booth.
Yep.
But even then, like, I always felt like there was, like, they certainly, I mean, they wouldn't let you in up until a couple of years ago if you didn't have an appointment.
Yeah, fair enough.
If you got in, like, I mean, Ed McKenna was right there. Like, Ed McKenna wasn't going to move the entire show.
So I think you could have absolutely ticked off a couple of brands, no question. But, like, Rick Rodriguez, no chance. He was mugged the entire show.
Right.
Well, I mean,
Just got to give it like a little nut tap, John.
What's that? Little nut tap?
Give it a little nut tap.
Little nut tap?
Yeah,
I with the IPCPR, a little nut tap.
Like, Victoria was good, like, basically of getting that open. Hey, here's the next place that was open, and it saves some time because General's a booth that takes a couple hours usually for me to cover to begin with because there's so much to, you know, photography and there's a lot of note taking I got to do. So that time helped. Having Victoria just kind of wherever I could save some time, that was a big difference.
I will just in the Victoria Love Fest, I will add that so her contract ended, I believe, July 1. Her independent contract. So she actually sent us
the press releases. Yeah.
They had to check
yeah.
in with her to get that sent out. So.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. Hashtag just saying.
All right, John.
So the only juicy bit that I had left was Coop already kind of covered it in the story yesterday, about Two Guys Cigars not attending the show, which was what was that, $1 million attributable amount to booth space plus spend at the show? Was that right?
From what I understand, it was just a spend. And go ahead, John. I won't steal the thunder on us because I think people aren't. I think people are looking at this one way, where I think it's a bigger story than people think.
I mean, it's a huge story. I mean, there's a number of aspects to this. First of all, I think say what you will about Dave Garofalo. I think he's a very smart guy. I think he is one of what I would consider the 2 or 3% of retailers in the United States who gets it. You know, he's obviously attended every IPCPR since it was RTTA. And he's closed up both a exhibitor booth as well as attending the show to make purchases. So I think we've already established that, and as a large enough retailer or even a medium-sized retailer, you can probably get all those deals outside of the show anyways, so it doesn't really matter. I don't think the $1 million spend is really that big of a deal. I don't think Padron or Perdomo is going to say, "Oh, Dave, if you don't show up at the show, we can't give you those deals." I mean, that's not going to happen. It probably wouldn't happen to a retailer that was half Dave's size, so it's definitely not going to happen to a retailer Dave's size. But I think it's a leading indicator to potentially what could happen in the future if you piss off some of your core larger retailers who have, a significant amount of retailer share or maybe have enough of a clout in the retail market to maybe move the dial. So it was particularly telling, I thought.
Well, if you get now this starts to now Abe, I talked to Abe, right? Abe made the argument, hey, I stopped going to IPCPR a few years ago. I said, but the difference, Abe, is if now you get a Dave Garofalo that pulls out, and I'm just going to hypothesize here. Let's say Jeff Borshowitz pulls out. Let's say the folks at Jack Schwartz, some of these bigger retailers, they start pulling out. Now the companies are seeing some of the big money gone. And the question is, do they start looking at saying, hey, do we have an ROI to come to the show if our biggest customers are not here anymore? That's something I think they're going to start to look at. Well, maybe we don't have to come to the show anymore, if that's the way it's going to be. And on top of that, when I look at what Cigar Marketplace is doing right now, and the companies they're signing up, and show specials are on that. When you sign up for Cigar Marketplace, you can access IPCPR show specials. You click right on an area and do it.
Or if you don't sign up for Cigar Marketplace, you can access IPCPR show specials.
Yeah, exactly. Good point. So
I mean, here's the problem with Garofalo, though. Like, the IPCPR has to ignore him.
Totally. I agree.
So it's a fun topic, and we'll see if he actually doesn't show up. But, officially speaking, the IPCPR has to just give him the middle finger and move on.
So I'm going to return to this topic when we get to the over-under because I actually think Garofalo is going to show up.
I think he's stubborn enough not to and make the point this year.
Yeah, but if they don't do Consumer Day, then Garofalo's got the easy out, right?
Yeah.
I think he's still got concerns about consumers in the organization, but that's a fair point. Yeah.
The fuck is the concern about consumers in the organization?
Yeah, I think he just he feels that this needs to focus on the retailer's problems. That's kind of all the
They're not
interaction.
focusing on the retailer's problems, though.
No, I know that.
John, get your popcorn ready.
No, it's fair. You're 100% right. You're 100%.
What the fuck does that mean? They don't focus on anyone's problems.
No, it's fair enough. I know. It wasn't like they were doing it before, and I totally agree with you.
Yeah, why is now the line of oh my god, if we let consumers in, they're not going to pay attention to the struggles of New Hampshire-based catalog retailers. The fuck does that mean?
It's a fair point.
Garofalo, look, Dave Garofalo, who is unbelievably intelligent and runs very successful stores, also likes to cause shitstorms as much as possible. Barry Stein is not employed thanks to his ability to review cigars.
Oh, yeah. I mean, but he broke the story on CigarCon.
Sure, he causes shitstorms. And
exactly.
Garofalo is smart enough to understand.
Let him be the fall guy.
Successful brand. No, but it's successful. Look, think about how many people read Barry's story about Oliva being bought by General. Sure, it wasn't right. And Barry might argue it was 50% correct, but it caused a shitstorm. It got everyone paying attention.
Sure did.
Any publicity is good publicity. So I mean, I don't he's super smart, but the IPCPR, if they have any ounce of intelligence at this point, the answer to Dave Garofalo has to be next question.
I agree.
We're disappointed that he's not going to be in attendance. Next question.
I agree on that.
All right, John, do you have any other topics, or are we going to start getting into over-unders and
That's
stuff like
it.
that?
Let's do it.
Anyone else have any other topics they wanted to bring up before we get into the kind of lightning round stuff? All right. Over-under on when tickets for CigarCon go on sale. So pick a date. And if anyone want us to go first, chime in.
May of 2019.
What'd you say?
What'd you
May of
say?
2020.
May of 2020.
That is
May of 2020. I was like, May 29th. What?
I'll say December 1st. I think they actually rushed them out.
Okay.
January 31st.
Eric, Coop.
Yeah, probably January. I'm gonna agree with Seth on that.
Oh,
Ooh.
I'll say February 29th. It's a leap year.
it's a
All right,
leap.
pick the day. All right. Okay.
There you can remember mine easy. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll.
That's assuming that they go through with this, right? Because I'm not
I
convinced.
don't think,
this is
man.
gonna-
I think if they back down of this thing, it'd be the biggest mistake they make. As disastrous as it may be, man, backing out of it.
Is
I'll say they go
very,
October
very tough
1st. October 1st, trying to get as much lead time as possible so they can cancel as quickly as possible if it's not going their way.
Interesting.
Oh
Good
yeah,
point.
I think the strategy right now is you have to go like way earlier than anticipated.
All right.
Oh, I think that would be a smart strategy. I don't think that's going to happen at all. I think it's going to be all last minute.
Well, I think the scenario is they start trying to sell tickets without the actual ticket portal being set up. Like they've done everything except enable Stripe.
Right. All right. Over on the number of tickets sold for CigarCon 2020. Target is 4,500. Where are we going to land at?
2,000.
603.
No.
This is some $1 bullshit here. I said 1,000. I'm sticking to 1,000.
All right. Who got Coop left? Charlie?
They said 0. They said it's not happening.
Well,
Yeah,
I
Charlie,
know.
are
I
you
think in
thinking
terms
0?
of the tickets that are honored, yeah, 0. I would say in terms of the amount that they sell before it being canceled,
Before being canceled.
like 420. Go with a
Okay.
good number.
Yeah, I was gonna say 750.
All right. I'll go 1,200. Let's see.
Here's the problem: they sell 1,200 tickets, they will go through with this.
That's what I want to see. I want to see it be
Yeah.
like just
Oh, this
over
is
the
going
tipping
through.
point. Just over the tipping point. So
happening.
they can't
Doing it.
back out.
We're gonna promote the shit out of this just to make it go through.
Exactly.
We're already promoting the shit out of it for that much.
That's
Think
what
about
I'm talking about.
it. Yep.
So Pete Johnson says he has 500 people already, so we'll be in good shape. Well,
Yeah, but how many people
there.
say I'm in, and then when push comes to shove, well, I can't do it. It's a bad weekend. My sister's getting married. The dog's sick or something like that. And I mean, it's human nature. I'm not even gonna pin it on the cigar
You weren't
industry.
gonna say human nature. You weren't gonna say human nature. You're gonna say this is a cigar industry.
I was.
You fucking were, man. Just throw those fuckers
But
under the
even if
say-
it's not, like this is an incredibly expensive event.
Yeah. Cigar. The big.
Diageo is going to cover half the expenses. It's fine.
The big smoke's having trouble selling right now. The big smoke's having trouble selling out right now. I just don't see if this is a more expensive proposition. Money's going to talk on this.
So there's been some numbers floated around about like what the tiers look like in regards to price. Charlie, I mean, have you seen the 400, 600, 1,200 thing? Do you have any insight? Is that legitimate, or is that any kind of ballpark numbers? What you've heard?
No, I don't believe that's
Someone made that up. I think someone made that up, and it's getting around.
I think you could sell a $1,500 ticket, no problem. I want
Yes.
to throw that right up there. Yeah,
Oh
So
gosh,
one.
yes.
no problem. And
So
you know how
one
I know
person.
that? Because
Did you
we
buy
sold tickets that expensive up in Canada.
No,
Seeing a bunch of Canadians.
Yeah,
are gonna
but a
show up.
$1,500 ticket in Canada is like $75 US. So
Well, yeah, I mean, there's exchange rates and stuff, but
Yeah.
yeah,
they were all American. They were all Americans that came up there and went.
yeah.
those numbers aren't. They're not ones that have been talked about. I mean, I think that there's one thing the IPCPR is 100% true in saying they don't have a concrete answer. It's in ticket prices. I think it's accurate to say that they've been operating under an assumption of at least $500, but I think that I don't think they've decided between 5 or 6 or 7 or 750. And I think probably the right approach is probably something like 650 or 700 with a substantial amount of that being kicked back to the retailer, but we'll see.
For a 6 hour walk of the show floor.
Yeah, but here's the
There's
thing.
more to it than that, man.
Way more to it than that.
Yeah, I mean, think about
You
all the
guys are
hand
so
jobs.
doom
here.
and gloom, man. I mean, come on.
It's supposed to be like a day of seminars before, right? And
We
then
we
6
can
hours
sell
show.
we sell
Welcome,
a
Gala.
whole trip to Honduras or Nicaragua, and we have 60 people waiting in line, and they spend $1,800 or $2,000 to go. I think people will do it.
People are going to do it.
4,500
go.
people are not going to do that.
It's Vegas,
I
man.
see-
They don't have
I
to
see-
worry about traveling to another nation. It's the 2-hour flight to Vegas. How complicated is that?
It's apparently quite complicated if you're a cigar aficionado.
Yeah, they said that's what I'm saying.
That's
Cigar
right.
aficionados, they're having trouble selling this out.
I mean, look, Rocky Mountain Cigar Festival, which I mean, as far as I'm concerned, is the best, consumer cigar event I've ever been to.
Yeah,
It's-
baby.
I heard it's terrible. I'm going to attend just to see how.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
Two dojo parties this year, by the way, just so you know. 2 dojo parties.
Oh shit!
Ooh.
No, seriously. I think you could. I think the upper scale. If you're underestimating for a 6-hour event in Vegas, if you factor in Dave Garofalo style dinners, honestly, I think you could sell a $2,200 ticket.
Yeah, but not 4,500 times.
Well, no, of course not. You got to tier that shit. You got to use some actual business analytics. You got to hire people.
No, this is the same organization that doesn't even survey people.
Well, no, I got a survey. I got
This
a
year?
survey. Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't fill it out because.
What do you think is going to happen with that survey?
Nothing.
Cool.
Same as when you get a survey from a large
Such
corporation. It's like,
downers.
do we need to fire you or do we need to keep you employed? It's like, no, I think my job is great and everything at this company is great and everything is fine.
Hey, I got a question for Charlie, actually. Did you hear anything? If you sign up for this event, right, does that include your membership to the PCA? Because I've heard you had to be so you automatically get a membership. So it does include your PCA membership.
Yeah, I think part of the reason why they want to do PCA memberships is for legal protections in terms of free samples and things like that.
Okay, but it's not like you have to buy the membership first and then buy the event. It's going to be all in one. You buy the ticket.
No,
It includes.
it's similar to how we do it. I also think there's probably, my guess is their contract with the Sands probably means that they need to have everyone on premises needs to be a member.
Okay.
If I was to take a random guess, but no.
Okay.
But I mean, Dave Garofalo is super concerned, so we'll see what happens.
All right. Does a major brand pull out of the trade show for 2020? And if there is, if you say yes to that, is there more than one that pulls out?
No.
No.
Yes, but one. I don't think it'll be more than one.
How about you, Eric?
A major brand?
Yeah.
Probably not.
All right, Charlie,
Oh,
since you talked about the suicide pact. I'm
hold on.
interested.
I take that back. I think there's a small chance that Cigar Aficionado might pull out. Might not have a booth.
Who?
Cigar Aficionado, yeah.
Totally agree.
Never heard of him.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean,
Does that wreck the trade show?
Yes.
All right. Well, you can't get your plastic covers for your fucking name tag, so maybe it does.
That's all I need, baby. Look,
Charlie, are you sincere that you think that Cigar Aficionado pulling out of the show would have any impact at all?
No.
No.
But you
Well,
think they're pulling out just because they're doing a competing event?
no, they're upset about other things. How
Because
things
the
have
rest
gone
of us
down.
are allowed in there?
No lunch
No,
tickets or what?
they're upset about other things. I'm just saying because, well, I'm just saying they didn't do the seminar. What does that tell you?
yeah, but I think that was a little bit more.
I don't think they stepped aside on it. Is my feeling. I don't have any fact on that. I'm just saying my gut tells me they didn't just. Oh, we'll step aside so you can do the Q&A session.
Oh no, they pulled out of that.
Yeah, they pulled out of it.
But no, I think there's a small chance that they might say, "Fuck it, we don't want to give you any money."
Yep.
So Pete says that the monster allocation moving forward is going to be based on 2020 attendance to the trade show. We'll see how that works.
Good luck, Pete. maybe some monsters for next year.
All right, cool. So you said there is, but it's only one.
I think it's only one.
Okay. And there's how about?
And I'm thinking manufacturer. I'm not thinking a magazine. I
Hey,
think
man, kudos to a brand owner to sticking to their guns and not, not bending over for a bunch of babies who are like, oh, I don't want to spend $1,000 to go to Vegas. I mean, like, listen, if retailers stop attending the event, the entire trade show is going to collapse upon itself. That's why this entire show exists, is because retailers are ceasing to attend this event. I mean, it's not entirely on retailers, it's not entirely on manufacturers, but that obviously that relationship is completely breaking down. If you're not attending the event's going to fail.
But it's
Well, I
also
think
like
that they're. Go
go ahead,
ahead,
Seth. No, go
Charlie.
ahead.
No. Well, I just think a lot of it, I mean, even John Anderson said that the hope is that even by doing this, if you get consumers who are very interested in that, it will, you know, kind of push the retailer to then also go to it. And I froze.
That makes no fucking sense.
I'm telling you what he told me, man.
No, I'm aware.
Yeah, no.
Well, that's what I think. That's what I think.
I'm
Yeah,
aware.
listen. You can't dispute these attendance issues right now, and if they don't get more retailers to the show, let's take CigarCon. I'm basing this not on CigarCon, I'm basing it on the utter disaster of the attendance this year. That I think some of these big companies are really going to look hard at this right now.
Yeah, where I struggle with the attendance a little bit is based on the dates versus just the year-over-year downfall of
What?
attendance.
Well,
Next year is what? Middle of July?
Middle of July. It's back to like kind of normal dates that they've had.
2016 had the dates, and they started seeing a downturn in attendance.
I believe that there's actually a worse date coming up.
And you're thinking 2021 has a worse date?
I forget which one. One of them has July 6th or something.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be a disaster.
Remember they moved it up one year, and the attendance went down. I remember they had to move it up, and that was because of the move to the convention center.
Yeah.
So I'm basing my answer not on CigarCon. I'm basing it on crappy attendance right now.
I mean, do you guys honestly believe that if you could wave a magical wand and move the event to March or whatever fucking day that people collectively decide, which is never going to happen because you can't get that many retailers in a room to decide what they're going to have for dinner. If you just magically say, okay, it's going to be March or it's going to be August or whatever day they pick, that's going to have a measurable move on the amount of retailers.
No, this is because the trade show function is becoming more and more antiquated right now. There's serious issues and it's happening in other industries, not just the cigar business.
But it's also happening in this industry in like a different aspect that no one ever talks about, which is that TAA has gone from being a singular, the best buying day of the year to now doing virtual dream machines multiple times.
Yeah.
And that's raised the question of like, okay, well, why do we pay for all of you to go to Mexico or Dominican Republic for a week? And also like,
you'll die, Charlie.
No, obviously true, but what's the benefit? Because the other problem here with these discounts, which this industry at some point is going to have to reckon with, is like they're not traditional discounts. When Microsoft wants to do a promotion, they will give their big box retailers and the small guys and all the distributors, they'll give them the cash back to try to promote their products so they can sell through a particular SKU or a set of SKUs. That doesn't happen here. Like when, General discounts something, none of that money ends up back in the consumer's pockets unless you go and buy the product from an online catalog retailer, which is, obviously a great mortal sin, and you should never do it because we will never forgive you. But like this industry is operating under such false pretenses about how retailing is supposed to work. And these retailers are trying to either get it both ways or have forced themselves in a position where they can only survive by just nonsensical retailing practices from like at the most basics of levels in terms of how you mark products up and your margins and profits and things like that.
Yeah, but what if they see my retail sheet at the Cigar-Con? I mean, God, it's going to break my business in half. And how am I going to explain that my business is in business to make profit?
I don't know.
So complicated.
Yeah, but John, to your point, name a date, and I guarantee you we could all poke holes at that date. That's my point. That's my point.
You say February, you say, well, it conflicts with the TPA. You see March, you say, well, the damn Canadians are coming down and the expenses are too high. You say October, you say, well, so year end, we're doing our bookkeeping. Everyone's going to find something to bitch about.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter. I don't think there's a right date.
Oh, by the way, if you have this at any other time of the year, the cost of doing the actual trade show, like from getting the exhibition space,
it's more expensive.
Dramatically more.
And that's the only consideration that should really matter.
Yeah.
Well, it should be number one. It should be number one. It shouldn't be
absolutely
the consideration. But yeah, you look at the people that are doing trade shows in Vegas in December, January, and February. It's not a whole bunch of poor organizations.
No, it's the porn convention. It's the builders convention.
Or convention mood.
Yeah, CES. Yeah.
Maybe we just need to cross over to the porn convention. Maybe that's
Coop
maybe
was
it's
quick to know
cross-pollination.
about that, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was
Dude, in my old company, right? We used to have our annual software convention, and literally the adult expo was exiting the convention as we were coming in, and this was every year we used to have this happen.
Coop would just be picking up condoms off the floor.
That's right.
That's where Charlie got a sex swing.
That's right. 50% off in cash on the last day of the show, right?
Yeah, he just paid to ship it back to the office.
Yeah.
All right, so let's take a shot at another one. Hoping Charlie was gonna be back for this, but yes or no? The Acid 20 makes the half-wheel consensus top 25 this year.
I've already said my piece on this. Absolutely, 100% makes the consensus. It's the stone cold lock of the week of the century.
Okay.
John, we're gonna have to make a bet on this because I'm stone cold locking. There is no way that cigar makes it on the consensus, and I'll be
on the consensus, just on the list.
Just on the
we'll have
list.
to figure some.
Dude,
It will not make the list.
Stone cold lock.
Stone cold lock. It doesn't make the list.
No, there's absolutely no possible way. Not a bad flavored cigar, infused cigar, but there's no way. Coop's 100% right.
I love it when we disagree, Eric. I feel like we're back in our regular place.
Right.
Right, Seth, what do you think?
Oh, I think Surgeon's so fucking run on this one, man. I love you to death, but
Yes!
shit, dude.
Yes.
There's no way it makes it.
Stone cold lock.
So.
Well, shit.
Stone cold lead pipe lock. I'm gonna say no way.
Surgeon always makes me doubt myself a little bit on this one. Damn it.
I can't wait for
Damn it.
Charlie.
Yeah, you got hit. Yeah.
All right, Charlie, here's the next question.
Mhm.
Yes or no, does the Acid 20 make the half-wheel consensus list this year?
The Acid 20 or the Cuba Arte?
Acid 20.
No.
You think the Cuba Arte makes it?
Yeah, I think they're going to do much more bribery attempts with that.
Okay, there you go.
Interesting.
Ooh.
All right, I'll play a little Pete Johnson for the next one. Does a large
Wait, what was you? What was you? Did you?
I will say yes.
Okay.
Yes. Does
Okay.
Lars
Oh, shit.
Keaton make the consensus?
Oh,
Does
wow.
Does
That's
the Lars
huge.
Keatons make the list?
No.
Oh.
No.
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 Not even because everybody got handed a $45 grass?
No, the problem is there's too many SKUs.
Okay, you just think it's just going to be too wide of a net
Yeah.
for people to pick one cigar?
Yeah, like it's
Yeah, but it doesn't get narrowed down by SKU size.
it gets narrowed down by blend.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the
but
problem
as
is
long as
there's-
it's an acid 20, it doesn't matter the Vitola, right?
An Acid 20, yes, but Lars Teton's, the problem is there's
All
seven
different blends.
Oh, yeah. Don't even get me
Even
started.
in the same line, the blends there's the Vitolas are different blends and things like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think plus like you're also dealing with an issue of Alec Bradley, historically speaking, unless Half Wheel just got blacklisted, which shit happens. Not exactly the most active media company when it comes to sending samples out to media, whereas like Drew Estate, obviously, here's
Who here smoked the
ashtray.
who here smoked any of the Lars Teton stuff?
I did.
I did.
What do you guys think?
Dude, it's it's an infused cigar. I mean, I don't know. I'm a terrible judge of that, so wasn't my thing. But maybe for some folks it is, and that's great.
Well, even if it's just, I don't see it as top 25. That's my point. You could probably find 25 cigars out there that will beat it.
All right.
I mean, hell, you could have Nick Malone and Saka could have 5 cigars between the two of them. So then that narrows it down.
So let's do that. The next question then. Which cigar do you think is number one in the consensus?
What? You're already going down, man.
What?
What's up?
What's wrong with that
What's
question?
the
That's a big drop right there.
it's either between
I'm not
soccer or
prepared for that
skip.
at all.
It's either between soccer or skip.
So we think it's Brûlée
Baca.
or Baca, right? That's
Baca.
Brûlée or Baca. Baca or Brûlée.
I don't think so.
All right, John.
I'll tell you one thing. That
Enlighten us.
Baca really deserves it.
Well, first of all, yes, but second of all, I think we're going to see a wild card switch up this year, because in order to put the Bach on the list, and this is part of the conversation at the media dinner, is you need to go out and buy that to review it. So I think that's a barrier to some of the small.
You don't think some of these guys are going to go out there and buy it?
No.
Some people will buy it.
Well, I can tell you it won't be on the Coop list just because of the way I'm doing the timetable now.
Well, you're just a fucking hater, man.
I'm an Espinosa fanboy.
You just hate that brand.
Yeah.
You're in it for the Laranja Escuro. That's all you care about.
I'm an Espinosa fanboy, I was told. So
The thing about the Romacraft stuff on the consensus has been that it's not shown up on a ton of lists historically, but where it's shown up high.
Right.
yeah,
And so I don't think Baca will have that same issue. If I had to sort of Monday morning or like whatever would be the opposite of Monday morning quarterback this is, like July quarterback it, or like NFL draft quarterback it, I suppose.
I think we got what you're saying there,
Yeah,
Charlie.
thanks, Seth. Well, I just want to make sure you got it, North Carolina.
Ooh,
That's fired.
I'm gonna be in North Carolina like 5 weeks.
Charlie, no one gives
September
a
and October.
shit, man.
I know. I won't
Damn.
see it. So I don't think that'll be an issue with Baca. I am somewhat hesitant to like comment on this, although like I don't have any changes planned to the consensus, so we'll go ahead and go with how we did it last year. I think Tricatraca is probably the more likely choice for me, at least.
Interesting.
you gotta remember though, Nick Morrow when Wiseman won it a couple years ago, he didn't even send out samples of those. People went and bought that. So I don't necessarily buy it. It has to be sent out. I think there's certain brands that certainly you can make an argument because there were samples sent out. They scored on a lot more media lists. That's a very fair argument. And you don't need to.
I would also I would say if there's going to be a wild card, the American seems like it's probably ripe to be that wild card.
Top 5, but not on Developing Palates.
Jesus Christ.
Just saying. No, I think it's going to land top 5 in the consensus.
That has nothing to do with like my thoughts on the cigar. It's more just of a JC. It seems like they've got their shit together, and
They really do. They really do.
agree.
Yeah.
My guess is they try to get that in people's hands. And
Yeah, of course. I mean, why wouldn't you?
Well, I mean, I can think of a number of companies that choose not to. So
Yeah. Well, how's that working out for them?
Padron seems to be doing fine.
Who?
Yeah.
Going out of business 2020. No, I think that okay. So we're going over under. The number 1 cigar this year is not going to be a brand that anyone expects. It's not going to be a Romacraft. It's not going to be a Nick Melillo. It's not going to be a Dunbarton. It's going to be somebody out of the blue that nobody expects.
It's going to be Hoya Antonio Connecticut.
Nope.
No.
No way.
Watch out for Gatekeeper.
Yep.
Watch out. I know they don't send out a lot of samples, but watch out for that one.
Balmoral. Something.
La
Yeah, but
Coalición.
That's an interesting one. I would point out that like this is like the consensus very rarely has been about which cigar is consistently finished in the top 3 on a number of lists.
Sure.
The real key is how many
lists?
How many lists?
And then can you end up on 50% of them? Can you be in the top 10?
Right.
That's really been the key. Last year was different, but I mean, that's why something like Gatekeeper, I think I struggle with, because I just feel like, given how Alec Bradley historically has done, it just doesn't show up on very many lists.
I will say that there'll be an Alec Bradley on the consensus this year.
I mean, are you going to pay me to put it on the consensus?
No, I'll make it. I'll make it.
Do you take payments to put it on the consensus?
No, but I mean, Coop seemed very convinced that it was going to happen. So
They have, although they haven't. I agree. They don't send samples that they have made. Them and JC Newman in the last year, they have really increased in terms of interacting with the media a lot better.
Yeah, but and I don't disagree with you, Coop, except that like you need to interact with the blogs that no one's heard of.
Fair
Like-
point. Fair point. Yes, I see what you're saying with that. Yeah. So
Like,
they're
that's
interacting.
why the Drew Estate and Drew Estate associated companies have historically done so well on this, is
Yeah.
because they've been able to make sure that the random cigar reviewer.blogspot.com is still smoking their products, whether they
Yep.
bought it or whether they were given a free ashtray to do it. Like, that's the key.
I'm just here for the free samples.
Send your address out and then make sure they, pay for all the associated taxes of sending it to
Yeah.
Canada.
Correct.
No, it's just shaving soap, man. I don't know what cigars. I don't know what you're talking about. No, I honestly think that the number one cigar this year is going to be a completely different brand that nobody expects. That's my over/under. Boom, done.
Eric, did you chime in?
Yeah, John's pick is really, that's just a chicken pick, man, dude. You got
It's
to
not a
pick.
chicken pick.
What
I
are the
listed two brands.
that's like-
brands.
John, that's like saying the cigar of the year this year is going to be one that none of you guys picked just now.
I said two brands. I listed two brands. I went out on a limb. I listed two brands. That's all I'm going.
We want to hear a brand that it's going to be. I mean, come on, dude. You got to go out on a limb just a little bit.
I don't have psychic powers, man. I'm sorry. I don't have psychic powers when it comes to the whatever math.
Let's put it down right now.
Let's make it a little easier. Let's make it a little easier for John. Will it have a Spanish name or an English name?
Spanish.
Black or red? Put your chips down.
Black.
I mean, Coop, just to just how crazy this Alec Bradley thing is. They finished 36th by company last year.
Interesting.
Wow.
Oh, I totally see your point. I totally see your point though about who they're interacting
Billiger
with.
was fucking 20th.
But I mean, that goes.
No, I see but I totally see your point. That's a very fair point. What you made is who they're interacting with, as opposed to like a Robert Holt who's dealing with everybody. I get it. No, and Drew Estate, you're totally right on that.
If Alec Bradley places a cigar in the top 25, particularly in a world in which you've got the Lars Teton's guitar playing distraction, but free spice, rubs for everyone.
Dude, he's been doing spice since he was like 3 years old. Why you gotta hate?
Yeah, before I was alive.
Not me, but you.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
I could understand if Alec Bradley was putting all their resources behind one Lars Teton's project. That would most of the resources, but I think it's just too spread out. There's way too many distractions.
It's way too many SKUs.
I think they still have some, and I think they still have to win some people over with this too.
I'd also like to point out that this has nothing to do with how good the cigars are, which is the best part about the consensus.
Yeah.
Confirmed.
We're not debating about whether or not the cigar is good or not. Like,
I mean, should we? Okay, should there be a half-wheel taste gatekeeper in future years that determine whether your palate is acceptable enough? And this is what, by the way, this is what led to a 10-hour conversation about what is good and what is not. But should there be some sort of gatekeeper as to whether your palate is appropriate enough to determine what is good or what is not?
No.
No.
It doesn't work that way.
Dude, that's like a total Canadian thing to say.
Is it?
What are you, socialist?
French Canadian thing to say.
Come on, man.
I don't even know where you're going with this.
Let the people be the people. They're gonna have their opinion. It's subjective.
Eric, they drink Tim Hortons. They know not what they do.
That's the problem, man.
That is the problem. They drink Tim Hortons. They smoke cigars. They think they know what they taste. It's wrong.
I mean, it's just as like on the half wheel end of things, like, because the general rule at half wheel is if it's rates 91 or above, it's eligible for our top 25. And like, there are times in which I'm smoking a cigar that has been rated 91 or above, and I'm smoking it now for our own list and going, what the fuck was fill in the blank thinking? And I know that it happens on the reverse side. And those are cigars that are usually coming out of the same box, like it roughly around the same time that they just got a 91. And just in terms of, and like, these are three people that I've known since 2012, let alone random cigarreviewer.blogspot.com and whatever cash they're getting underneath the table from whoever the fuck. Like, I'm not going to sit here and try to judge, whether or not you're qualified to do your job. Like, it's also not that, like, it becomes counterproductive to the consensus. The consensus is, if you are a media consumer at home and you read all of these lists, what would your mind be like? for better and worse. Like, obviously, I think the half-wheel list is much more legitimate than the consensus, and I think my own personal ranking of the half-wheel list is far more legitimate than the half-wheel list or the consensus. But the cigar I've ranked as the top cigar of the year hasn't won the half-wheel list for the last 2 years. So, yeah, it is what it is.
All right, and a couple other ones, and we can open it up to ones you got other guys have. So we're gonna pick two of the big manufacturers here. We'll take General and Altus. We'll start with General. The best cigar that you personally think will end the year out of the General portfolio from releases at the trade show.
So I just want to clarify what you personally think is going to rank the highest of your personal review, correct?
Correct.
Right.
Not what you think will sell the most or
Right.
whatever
But
that
what's
is.
going to rank on the fanboy list or the consensus or whatever.
Right. Anyone want to take a shot? I know, Coop, you could tell yours because I know you already got yours picked out.
He's on mute.
You're mute.
Rookie mute. Rookie.
Are we doing it individual for each individual General Alternate or just one?
Individual for General right now.
For my personal list or for everyone?
For you, what do you think is going to be the best cigar from General this year? For your taste.
I really like that Lagoria Cubana Spanish Press.
All right.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I haven't scored it yet, but I liked it a lot.
John does thumbs down, and he hasn't even smoked the cigar.
You haven't even smoked it though. I mean,
Got a
All right,
shot
John,
from
you're next. You
V19.
All right. Eric.
For General, I think I'll probably go with the Diesel Sherry Cask.
All right. Have you smoked it yet?
Yeah, it's
Sorry,
good.
Justin. All right, Seth, go ahead.
yeah, that's a good one too.
Seth, you froze up.
I froze up there, man.
All right. What's up, General?
What cigar from General do I think is going to rate best for me?
Yes.
Anything above a 4.5 for you.
Oh man, probably the Diesel.
Yeah, baby.
Charlie.
I'm gonna go with the Cohiba Connecticut, which is the leader in the clubhouse. I really actually like that cigar quite a bit.
Make me so sad.
I'm gonna go with something off the wall, and I'll pick the,
Odyssey Sweet Tips.
I'm gonna go with the Inspirato Palladium.
You've lost all fucking credit.
Cigar, but I know I haven't liked any other
Off the
Inspirato, so I'm
wall,
gonna go with that one.
Odyssey
Maybe they got
Sweet
this one
Tips
right.
Has to be the answer.
I don't understand the love of the Cohiba Connecticut, man. Like I don't.
I thought it was a great cigar.
Which binder? Which binder?
Which binder did you get?
Which binder did you get?
I have no fucking clue.
Did you get the San Andreas binder? Did you get the Indonesian
Habano?
binder? Or did you get the Havana binder?
I don't know.
You need to
It all
crack this
depends.
open and find out before you start lighting it up.
Yep.
All
I
right.
guess. I just smoke cigars. So
I'm just here for the samples.
All right, let's move over to Altadis. Anyone want to take a shot?
I'll go with the new Trinidad.
Anyone else want to piggyback on that one?
The A. Chapman Hispaniola.
Oh my God, Coop. Jeez.
I didn't. No, that's not the one you're thinking of. It's not the one. It's the other. You're thinking of the other one.
Which one am I thinking about?
Are you thinking of the one that uses the special technique?
Is this what happened in the La Serena?
No,
booth?
What's that?
What happened
What
to
happened
the
in the La
La Serena?
Serena booth? Like with the magic tricks? Like, no, it's not what you're thinking of.
Oh, we didn't get that experience. 'cause-
no. It says you're thinking about the controversial
Yeah.
board
the
leaf. No, this
No,
Hispaniola is a
I
different.
wasn't thinking about that one. I was
What?
actually I'm talking
Are
about
you
the same
thinking about?
thing you're talking about.
The Hispaniola. I was pretty impressed with it.
Okay.
Who hasn't gone yet? Charlie?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Vega Fina Anniversario, which is once again the leader in the clubhouse.
Oh, I didn't put that one on there, but that could be a good one.
So I'll just go to be different with everybody else. I'll go with the Espada
Odyssey Sweet Tips?
Okay, whatever. So
That's not new.
that's not new.
The Oscuro. You're thinking the Oscuro didn't come out the
sorry.
show.
Yeah. Which one was this year?
They just
It's good.
repackaged it.
Oh, it was just the same one? The
I
Maduro?
believe so.
I thought this is the one they did with the Ometepe tobacco.
Oh,
Oscuro.
the new.
Espada Oscuro.
Yeah, no, that's new.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go with
I
that.
was thinking of the repackaged Stoke.
Henry Clay Warhawks.
That is,
isn't
I
it?
mean, that's a good cigar,
Yeah, there you go.
Warhawk.
Boom.
but
There
it's a
you go.
Rock.
little early.
That Corona version of that.
Moorhawk.
Yeah.
Eric, we agree?
Warhawk.
That was good.
God damn it. Stop it.
All right. Any other questions we want to hit? And you got yes or no's, over unders, pick'ems, whatever you guys want to do that you think is interesting. Does anybody get busted for a new blend this year?
No.
No.
Definitely not.
So here's one. Will Eric Espinoza and Tom Lazuka win the cornhole tournament at the dojo party this year? I mean, they're the reigning champs. Will they repeat? I don't know.
Who's on your team?
My team, I have Randy Griggs.
Oh, you guys are fucked.
Yeah.
Sorry, what is this and when is this?
Don't sell Randy short. He's pretty good, man.
I was talking about you. I was talking about you, man. I bet Randy's solid, dude. Randy has that. He has that look, man.
Yeah, you're right
He's
about
got that
me.
cornhole look.
Yeah. Although I did do pretty good last night, but Eric Espinoza and Tommy Lazuka, man, they're hard to beat. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
Yeah, I mean, Eric's old softball pitcher. He's got that underhand throw down.
Oh yeah, he's ridiculous.
Can't beat him.
He won't even throw the bag unless it goes in the hole.
There you go. Any other ones you got? You guys don't have any other?
We're not going to do best Nomad cigar this year, right?
Oh, we can try.
Who?
mean,
So you're gonna have like 15 more to choose from before the year's up.
I mean, the waffle cone's not going to make it. Fucking waffle cone.
Are they gonna have the extra spicy fried chicken this year?
I don't know. Maybe deep fried turkey or something.
Could be.
All right, I'll give you just a question. Well, we did this one on ours. The number of national sales managers who lose their jobs.
Yeah.
Changed jobs. We did that one.
By
already.
when? By December?
But I mean, we did it for a month, so I don't want to redo it again.
We'll still see some before the month's out. I think we'll see some action.
That's just cruel to even think about.
Yeah, look at. Thank
Yeah,
you,
but it's
Eric.
kind
These
of the way
guys
the
are just
industry
making
works.
bets on people's job.
Yeah, man, so their lives are at stake.
Yeah,
Deadpool, man.
Nobody.
got
Get them out of the
They
Deadpool.
got families.
Don't worry
They got
about it.
kids.
I feel like our over under was really laxing. We only went like 2 brands, and then his weak sauce. We went number of consumers that were going to attend the event, and then this is not deep level prognostication here.
Yeah, I know. Came up with a few, but you guys.
What's that?
Yeah, came out with a few, but you guys backed down on some of them. I mean, come up with some other ones that are good ones.
Okay, I mean the Cigar-Coop dynamic special, is the Cigar-Con going to actually occur in 2020? Over under.
No,
Or just
Both of you said no.
I'm saying no.
Charlie?
Yeah, I think I've been pretty clear on this.
Yeah.
Not
Okay.
happening.
So I'm going to say yes. It's
It's
going to
gonna
happen, hell or high water.
happen, and it's going to be better than you guys are saying. I agree it's going to be a bit of a cluster, but you guys are a little doom and gloom. For my,
Eric, if it happens, like it is better than what I'm saying.
yeah, and I'm saying
Apparently.
it's going to be better than
Like,
most
two
of the
people could show up.
prognostications on this show to this point. Like, what was the highest somebody said was 1,200 tickets? It's going to be more than that. It's going to be
All right.
2,000 tickets. It's going to happen. It's not going to be so bad. It'll be fun for us media guys. I'll probably take a group of 20 people. It'll be great.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think you may have the highest turnout.
The over under on the number of brand managers that show up at the media house to escape because Bar Luca has been overrun by consumers.
Oh,
I don't know. I'd say a dozen.
I think if Consumer Day happens, the most fascinating part to me is allegedly you are not going to be able to do sales during Cigar-Con. However, what scenario, like how much money do you have to spend to just flagrantly walk around and purchase cigars as a retailer? Because like if you're dropping $100,000 in the Perdomo booth, is the IPCPR really going to have the balls to kick you out of the trade show? Be like, oh, by the way, you are not allowed to do business today, so we're going to have to remove you from the trade show and ban you from the trade show floor. Like, what's the number? Is it 100,000? Is obviously like that's a no-brainer. You can do whatever the fuck you want.
Right.
25 grand?
Speaking of
25,000 yen? Like what?
did anyone get fined for smoking this year?
I haven't
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
Damn it.
So, you make a point about this whole business thing. I think there's going to be some of the smaller manufacturers in particular. They're going to be writing orders from Bar Luca on that Consumer Day.
Well,
I think
I mean, if somebody doesn't want to participate, they can be doing business.
No, so I think and it's funny because I wrote about this too. How there's consumers at Bar Luca and manufacturers, retailers have no concerns about them being around seeing price sheets and orders there, but on the trade show floor, it's a different story.
Right.
No, I don't think anyone really gives much of a shit about a consumer seeing a price sheet. Like
I agree, but that's the argument we've heard from the manufacturers. Yeah,
I think it's something to do with the tax situation. I don't think the IPCPR has decided unilaterally speaking that they're not going to allow they're not going to allow wholesale sales to take place during the consumer event. I think that is more to do with the state of Nevada.
No, I'm just saying there's kind of a hypocrisy that one of the arguments I've heard about having consumers on the trade show floor, even during the week, is that a price sheet could be out, right? And that's always they'll see the price sheets, but you go over like the old Champagne bar, I used to see orders being written with plenty of consumers around.
Yeah, but what if they see the price sheet, Coop? I mean,
there are orders written when consumers are in the shops, like when the reps walk.
That's what I'm saying. It's one of the I've seen that. That's one of the Facebook excuses I've seen over and over and over again about the price.
Well, that is the place to go to figure out the most logical arguments.
Yeah.
All right, here's a question: Will a company do a Cigar-Con limited edition?
Yes.
Yes.
God, I hope not, but they will. I had that argument with Scott Weeks today, actually.
Which retailer is going to end up with all the Cigar-Con limited editions that don't sell? Is that Dave Garofalo?
Well, because he's not there.
They'll unban them and put them in Mazzos and make something really special.
Dave Garofalo could do a Cigar-Con special.
Hey man, I think me and Justin are going to do a Cigar-Con special. It's going to blow out.
There you go.
There you go.
But does that really depend on Cigar-Con?
That's the next Dojo release, by the way.
Yeah.
There we go.
Diesel and Dojo. My prediction is the next Dojo. Or there'll be a Diesel Dojo release this year.
Is that what you predict, huh? Oh.
I'm predicting that one. Yeah, that's a guess.
All right.
Will that be your first AJ cigar, Eric?
Directly?
Well, either directly or indirectly. Is this the first one that AJ laid hands on?
Don't do it.
I can't answer that question.
All right. Any other ones? Or we're going to wrap this up now? All right, we'll wrap it up. Well, thank you all guys for all joining. It was fantastic. I think we had a nice discussion here. We went just shy of 3 hours, which is under I think what some of us were expecting. Hit a lot of nice points. For everybody watching, check out all these guys' IPCPR coverage. They did great jobs. They all did different kind of formats and things like that. So y'all did great. Anything anybody wants to share before we head out? I know you guys still have, Coop's content from the trade show will go on until I think mid-October.
December?
Okay. I don't remember.
But we go right into the top 30 countdown. So
Okay.
always make it easy, yeah.
When do you typically wrap up, Charlie?
The last year we got it done pretty quick. My guess is Thursday is probably when we'll be done.
All right.
Guys, for all of you guys complaining so much about the show, you're devoting 25% of your coverage to it. Come on, man. There's more to the cigar world than the IPCPR, the PCA. I mean, maybe it's partially our fault that we've put so much mental energy into this one event. Maybe it's partially our fault that our expectations are so high for this one event that now we're like, so disappointed in it. Maybe.
Well, I mean, maybe we're the ones that care so much about it. I mean,
Why? But why this event? There's more to the cigar world than the IPCPR.
What's a biggest? What is? It's first of all, it's the biggest part of the year for Coop, right?
25% of your time. 25?
Seth has a good line for this.
I mean, we've.
But yeah, I'm not expecting.
There's three things on Coop where we get hits. Okay, IPCPR, FDA, and end of the year list. Those three things are our biggest hits right now.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you should love what they're doing because.
I love what they're doing. Like,
we want to see the show succeed. I think.
All right.
I think all of us
absolutely
want
to see the show succeed.
It's our signature event in the industry.
By the way,
what
John,
Eric's just saying is just have some positive vibes, man.
Yeah, baby. That's what I'm saying.
Does the sun ever set? Is that what you're going to ask?
yeah.
Yeah. Does the sun ever set in Canada?
nope.
Another hour.
Jeez.
Is it? Yeah, that's jeez. Yeah, it is.
Bro, we sit through like 14 months of winter, man. We got to get some summer sometime. We get 61 days of summer, and it's all
It
we
still
get.
looks cold as shit up there, man.
I love it.
Chilly. It's like 61 degrees. It's,
Amazing.
Yeah, it's chilly, man.
it's a little chilly. I got my shorts on though. It's fine.
That's soup weather right there.
What?
Soup weather, man.
I don't even know what that means, bro.
The liquid consumable food product.
I mean, I got soup, but I don't understand the reference.
61 degrees,
That's
man.
soup.
Soup.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. I think that's a wrap. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you all for joining in and being part of this discussion. We will catch you all the next time.
Ooh,
That's the way to go.
what a dark ending.
So dark.